Shorties.
Hi, Shorties.
Fingers crossed, StreamYard's being a little bitch tonight, apparently. Very frustrating when we're professionals here. Fucking professional.
She's a fucking professional. No goddamn it.
Miss Shorty, you're muted. Miss Shorty, you're muted.
God, yes.
Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fake breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Trial watching, trials and tribulations. It's Camp Shorty calling all nations. What are you drinking? Shall we skip this part? Left or right-handed? Shit, she slid it to the start. She's a fucking professional. Yo, goddammit. You're muted, what? Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fake breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Psychology corner. Let's learn about stuff. New Miss Shorty music. Calling their bluff. Best chat, best community. We've got the best minds. A safe, supportive sanctuary full of fun and love. Rock out with your cats down. Curse all you want. And here at Camp Shorty, we even say God. She's a fucking professional. Yo, goddammit. You're muted, what? Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fake breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Hey, Shorties, what's doing, y'all? Get in here, Shorties. Let's fucking go. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty.
Hi! I forgot to put myself on the stage. Hi, Shorties. It's like, hi, good to see you. Hi, Shorties. It's good to see you again. Take two. Hi. Take two, part two. Part two. Oh, you guys want another pig's ear? I love you so much. You know what? You're so cute. Why not? Why not? The replay crew doesn't know that this is our second live stream in a row. They're just watching it. That's a little ladies one. Ladies first. They're just watching it going, why does she sometimes give them pig's ears and sometimes she doesn't? Oh, my God, Buster. That's two. Good God. Gross. Oh, my God. This. Oh, there we go. Oh, Buster, did you take poppies? Buster took poppies. Snatch and grab. Hi, how are you? Replay crew, hi. Speaking of replay crew, hi. If you are going to come on in and watch this after the fact, first things first, if you haven't seen part one, the link is in the description box below. So go and catch part one because we're 49 minutes into a 2 hours 23 chat with Dr. Ramani and the guy from Med Circle. Is his name Kirk? Josh? Dunno. Drongo? I don't know. Call back. Hi, replay crew. Timestamp down below for you. But if you would like to watch the live chat replay and you're on your handheld device, your iPhone, your Android, love Androids, best, tablet, iPad, whatever, easy peasy. All you can do is go to the comment tab and there's a couple of little dots in the top right hand corner. Swipe left on those little dots and it'll give you the option to hype, like, and watch the live chat replay, as well as leaving a comment. Love your comments. Tell us what you think. Tell us your thoughts. Sociopath, psychopath. Yeah, boy. I love this. Promote this shit. Promote it. Do you think that you know of somebody? Have you had interactions with a psychopath? Tell us all. Tell us all. What else? Buffering. I don't think there's anything else. Shall we get into it? Thank you, mods, for being here. I love you all very much. Thank you, Shorties, for being here. I love you all very much. If you recall, we called it last week at a really nice natural breaking point that even the host said, I'd love to leave it there because that was such a beautiful sentiment. However, I have more questions to ask you. So we're going from there, and it gets into the nitty gritty of sociopath and psychopath at this point, if I recall. It's been a minute now since I watched, excuse me, this in totality. While I think of it, we will be doing another Psychology Corner tomorrow night. I guess it's two guys talking. So it's a little bit broski, but the conversation was incredibly interesting and not so hyper specialized on psychopathy or narcissism. It's really interesting. So I'm pretty sure we'll do that tomorrow night. It'll all be in the playlist. Psychology Corner, ... narcissists, assholes, and flying monkeys. Say that. Now, dogs are crunching. You know, Buster stooged himself because I gave Poppy a little lady-sized pig's ear, and then he pilfered it, and she ended up with the bigger ear. So, I mean, pays to be a gentleman, Buster. God. Now, here, is it this one? She wonders. Yes, it is. Indeedy do. Where am I going to be on the screen? It's always confusing. There. Down here? Yes, I love this. So, night has fallen. They definitely need some more plants. We need to get them some more plants for this studio environment. Am I right? Am I right? We'll take a song break at some point. Maybe we'll do a poll. Given that you all just had Wizard of Oz, we won't necessarily play that, but there's plenty of songs. And I've got another song itching my brain, BT Dub. So that.
Beautiful. I would love to leave it right there, but I have more questions for you.
Good, great. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
So I can't leave it on that perfect note that you just gave me. When it comes to antisocial personality disorder,
very echoey.
What am I not asking you that I need to be?
Okay, we've just been in court in the church basement, where it was very nice acoustics, and suddenly my earballs are affronted by the extreme echo because there are no soft furnishings in this room other than 2 yellow couches. Anyway, I will tell Tim that you love him. Absolutely. He loves you right back. I don't know where he is today. He's out and about doing Tim stuff.
Asking you.
You know, antisocial personality disorder, the big question is, what if the big question around antisocial personality disorder really is, can it be treated? You know, to which I'm typically going to say the answer is no. In most cases, no. We do know that over time, people with antisocial personality disorder kind of get tired out. They kind of, it gets exhausting to be a person who keeps breaking the rules at 90 or 75. Like, you get tired. It's exhausting, right? But
It's exhausting.
These are patterns that are very, 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 very resistant to change. These are folks that many therapists don't have the training to work with, nor do all therapists even want to work with this population. They feel threatened or intimidated, and nobody should ever work with a patient population they don't feel comfortable with. But there's typically no motivation for change because these folks don't think anything's wrong. You know, they really, and it's also, the question is, how does a person become this way?
Let's dive into that. Explain first the born part.
Yeah, so there is, you know, particularly in the area of psychopathy and antisocial personality disorder, there's actually been a lot of research done on sort of brain function in people with antisocial personality disorder. And there are various brain areas that have been implicated: the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate cortex, the amygdala. All these fancy names are really simply boiled down to something's wrong upstairs. You know, their brains aren't the same as everybody else's. However, what these researchers have found is that those brain differences in structure and chemistry colliding with childhoods that may be characterized by abuse, neglect, violence, being the victim or witnessing violence, frankly, invalidation, emotional abuse, those things might potentiate any of those sorts of structural issues in the brain. We also know that there are areas in the brain that subserve empathy. And that when research, empathy. So the research has been done actually with people who qualify as sort of psychopaths or as antisocial personality disorder. I think they had been in prison. What they found was when they were able to tell the subjects in this research to think about something and force them into empathy. Like they told them a story and say, can you really stop and think how that person in that story felt? And the person concentrated on how that person felt. That area of the brain lit up, but it wouldn't have happened naturally for them. So they don't naturally find themselves to empathy. So they're capable of what we might call cognitive empathy. They're like, yeah, I can get that. And that area of the brain will light up, but it doesn't happen spontaneously. So a relationship isn't really possible with them, but it's not entirely broken. You can turn the system on.
Wow. Now, if I always take my glasses off when I get excited, if a child is born with something not functioning correctly upstairs, and it is a psychopathic or sociopathic tendency, and they don't have an environment that is violent, they actually live in a very supportive environment, can you raise somebody not to be that way?
I have read case literature of exactly what you're describing. A kid who is actually from the loving home. Parents who loved them, you know, a nurturing environment, plenty of resources. It wasn't an impoverished or dangerous community or anything. And that child started displaying antisocial tendencies and it kept unraveling and they became, you know, violent or predatory or poorly behaved adults, if you will. And you know, those are case reports. That's not normative. That's definitely a very low probability event, if you will. But it's interesting. When you read some of the work being done by some of the really great researchers in this area, Adrian Rain, for example, is a guy at the University of Pennsylvania, and he's done some really great research on psychopathy. And, you know, I was reading something, an interview done with him, and he had said, like, listen, we're going to get to the point where we may be able to identify some of these patterns in children. And if that's the case, we really should work with parents to help them identify some of these patterns early on to see if we can do some intervention with them. We're not quite there yet.
Pausing just to say, Poppy is still trying to wrangle that giant man-sized pig's ear. She's see, Buster, that was a real big boy's one for a big greedy boy. And Poppy got it. She finally finished it. Oh, no, she left the last little bit. Buster's pilfered that too. Wow. Dog politics.
Yeah, but I must say that when we see kids who are engaging in patterns of behavior like bullying or acting out, we have to spend the time to do the necessary assessments to determine what might be going on for that child, both at home and in school, and what behaviors are manifesting. Because it is possible in some of these cases, if we could get ahead of some of this, then sure, we might be able to engage in some prevention work. But that's difficult to do. You know, you can only mandate so much.
That I understand. When we have the behavior, we try to fix it.
You're saying just on the basis of the brain.
Yeah, because that's the mental health landscape is so gray.
Yeah.
And what's so frustrating to a lot of people is that it's just a expert's opinion whether or not their kid has ADHD or their kid has bipolar disorder or that their cousin is depressed. It's just somebody's opinion on that. So when we can have something more definitive that can be tested, that's so exciting to me.
That's what the hope has been. And of all the personality disorders, really antisocial personality disorder is the area where a lot of this work on the central nervous system and the activity of the central nervous system is being conducted. And, you know, the challenge is, what do? You give everyone in America a brain scan?
No, can't do that.
So you see what I'm saying? So it's sort of like, where do we go with this? And the findings right now are very subtle. A lot of them happen after the fact. So a person goes and does bad things, and then we do the scan. What other things happen in their life?
That's right.
You know, and some of the research hasn't been as good at sort of describing how much abuse or deprivation or all those other kinds of conditions are present, how much of that shaped their brains. And that's the thing, the brain is shaped by its environment. So you have a bit, we're kind of playing a chicken egg chase game here. But definitely both things are at play. There are vulnerable brains out there, and when that vulnerable brain meets an invalidating environment, that's sadly where the issues arise.
Do you think we would ever get to a point where we would do a scan on kids scan their brain, and we could say, yes, they are likely to be a sociopath or psychopath?
Not in our lifetimes. I don't think so. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if slowly we get there. Remember, the brain is a very complicated system. It's not so simple as like, there's like a little, other organ systems are much
an entire
more
business around the
right.
brain.
Other organ systems are a lot more straightforward, but the brain hides for secrets. And, you could have 4 scans that look similar, and yet the behavioral manifestations could be quite different because it's an intersection of so many things. Everything from the person's gender to their ethnicity to where they live to what their parents did to what kinds of early environment they had.
Pause. Oh God, they've put on the lighting into the room, and now the couches are brighter in color again. The evolution, the continuity. I wonder if this is someone's home. They need to make it more homely. Very grandiose.
It's not that simple. Would that it were, but we're not there. That this extraordinary thing called the brain is, that allows us to do everything from, write poetry to fall in love to, drive a car. It's not that simple. And I don't think we're going to get it. We want it to be that simple. We want to be able to predict these patterns. I think it's a pretty high order. It feels like a science fiction film to me, but who knows? Maybe neuroscience will prove me wrong.
Do you think, or is there any proof that any of this is hereditary?
There is some evidence showing that it runs in families. Now, it's particularly father to son. And as we talked about, these rates are higher in men. When we talk about antisocial personality disorder from a more biological model, one of the things we talk about is something called the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has an arm of it called the sympathetic nervous system that we popularly refer to as the fight or flight system. But the autonomic nervous system is associated with arousal. So when we get worked up about anything, when we're frightened, when we're anxious, anything that is threatening to us, we get aroused. Our heart rate increases. We sweat. Our eyes become wide. We become short of breath. Those are we get our skin, when our hair stand up on edge kind of thing. All of those are autonomic signs. The belief is that people with antisocial personality disorder have lower autonomic arousal, meaning that under conditions of fear or threat, they don't get as aroused, which is why they're willing to take risks. And they don't have the same anxiety.
Pause. Brit says her hair looks healthy in this one. Hi, Brit, by the way. Yes, this is from 5 years ago, and I have a feeling that Dr. Ramani would have just dyed her hair, her regrowth. And when you dye your hair, Brit, I believe you're someone who hasn't ever colored their hair. When you add color into your hair, it generally makes it look thicker, more lustrous, more shiny. My hair, now that I haven't dyed, well, that's not my hair. What am I doing? Lol. My hair, my actual hair. Now that I haven't dyed it in a long time, the box dye end bits are really dull. If I was to put a color through it, any color, that would look lustrous and shiny. But yes, her hair does look very good in this one. Oh, why did my mouse go no?
We avoid things that make us anxious, right? They don't get anxious, so they don't avoid those same things that are really high risk. And in fact, there's research that shows that people with psychopathy have lower resting heart rates. They just are more under aroused. So sometimes that manifests in them getting into really dangerous thrill-seeking types of sports because they almost want to feel the arousal the rest of us feel on a regular basis, day after day. And that it's believed that autonomic nervous system under arousal could be inherited.
In our first video you and I ever made, I think it was our first one, you told a story saying that they could be in a car with a dead body in the trunk, get pulled over by the police, and be
they won't break
totally
cool. Totally cool. Absolutely. That wouldn't even flinch.
are those that's a sociopath
That's a psychopath.
or a psychopath,
Yeah.
and they are
Yes.
born?
Psychopaths tend to be more born. Sociopaths are probably a little bit more made,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I mean, that's a rule of thumb. That's not perfect science, but definitely you see that sociopathy tends to be a bit more a byproduct of the chaotic or negligent early environment. Whereas psychopathy, you can have that. You can definitely have the negligent early environment. It's probably likely, but there's likely also that biological sort of piece. Again, the sociopaths tend to be a bit more sloppy, messy,
Yes.
reactive.
What age, in your personal experience, do you find psychopaths or sociopaths being diagnosed?
You can't diagnose them until they're over 18. I don't think it's a reliable diagnosis.
Buster,
None of the
God.
personality
You
disorders
bust her out for the
are
14th
diagnosed
time.
in adolescence.
Except for the
Conduct disorder. Conduct
disorder.
disorder is not a personality disorder. It's a childhood disorder.
Oh,
So you could diagnose a kid with conduct disorder
Okay.
because they keep breaking the rules.
right.
It's possible that kid will not go on to develop antisocial personality disorder. If you're really, 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 really lucky, they'd be put into perhaps a juvenile center where they really get good rehabilitative care and they don't commit crime again. I mean, the odds are not in your favor, but it can happen that way. So conduct disorder is a disorder of childhood. Personality disorders are only diagnosed in adulthood. We're making room for the fact that the personality continues to evolve, shape, and grow during the adolescent years into emerging adulthood. I actually really wouldn't feel comfortable giving a definitive diagnosis of a personality disorder in anyone who's much younger than 20 or 21.
I would have
That's
thought
so
25.
fascinating. That was my next question too, where you would feel comfortable
Yeah.
giving that
I mean, I would
diagnosis.
talk.
Because he's so fabulous. He references a male partner. I mean, love him. It's coming up. What was I going to say? Something. Oh, I would have thought that that even 21 was a little on the young side for diagnosing. I mean, the frontal lobe, the brain isn't fully developed until 25, 26. Anyway, I am a doctor. I might have to do some further training to clarify that. Oh, go press play. Why doesn't it want to play? Play, you silly.
Talk about patterns. I say you definitely have the traits here, but you also have a teenager. And I can tell you, as the parent of teenagers, I think I've probably seen what feels like every personality disorder's symptoms in them. You know, I'm like, wow, they're being really
She still
narcissistic and
loves you,
unstable. I
girls.
love them, but I was like, oh my gosh, you know. And that's where I really learned that teenagers are up, down, and all around. And you know, again, that's a developmental issue, and that's why we want to be very careful. So the last thing you want to do is toss a label on an adolescent who's coming into their own and make them pathologize this process of them trying to find themselves. And if we look at any of ourselves when we were teenagers, like we were anything but graceful.
Oh, goodness. That is the truth. In regards to antisocial personality disorders, what demographic besides men do you find more affected?
This is where it gets a little tricky sociopolitically. Unfortunately, what we see, and this is something that, as I've reviewed the literature from my research, that these patterns tend to be overdiagnosed in people from lower income groups and ethnic minority groups. And the belief is that's because those groups are also disproportionately incarcerated and the target of law enforcement. So the belief is that it's almost like this sense of pathologizing people who are different than the norm. And that's why those statistics, I think we have to be very, very, very careful with. So again, these disorders don't know to discriminate per se, but since they're based on moral, social, ethical, and legal codes, and those codes are enforced by other entities, now you're bringing politics in. You see, that's where it gets tricky, and that those things don't belong in mental health, but we have to be mindful of them. So in
Really
fact,
interesting
what
point.
we do sometimes see is that sometimes women who probably have antisocial personality disorder will get misdiagnosed with another syndrome, such as borderline personality disorder, because we don't think of women as having antisocial personality disorder. And there are men out there who might very well have borderline personality disorder who get diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. So things like gender, race, social class,
Is there
all
a
of those
term
things
for
matter.
that? When a therapist or psychiatrist brings their own personal prejudices into
Yeah,
their practice?
bias.
Bias.
Yeah.
Just the normal term bias.
It's bias.
Okay.
And that's why that, ideally you have multiple pairs of eyes on case data, which you don't always have, because I've been surprised when I do every so often get to see, past, diagnostic, systems laid on a client. I'm like, really? I got to say, I'm not seeing it this way. So it's not a precise science. That's why these labels don't tell us much. I think we're better off focusing on patterns.
Yeah.
On
Patterns. In our lifetime, what do you hope or think that we could develop when it comes to the causes of antisocial personality disorders?
This is actually, a lot of what is being
I
done.
just let you out. We're not going out
disorder
again.
research very much focuses on antisocial
Sorry.
personality because we do know it's dangerous to society.
Mhm.
So what do I think?
Pause. I just talked over the top of her. Buster's being a pest. You don't need to go. It's too cold to have the door open and I can't do it. I love you very much. We normally stream for lots longer than this. You can't just stand at the back door wanting to go out and then wanting to come in and then wanting to go out. Poppy goes, yeah, but they all say, yeah, we can. We do. No, we're professionals.
A lot of what is being done
Poppy.
in personality disorder research very much focuses on antisocial personality because we do know
Poppy growth.
it's dangerous to society.
Mhm.
So what do I think we'll learn? I do think that newer and newer tools, neuroimaging tools that look at namely functional neuroimaging tools that really look in real time at brain function, those are going to shed some really important light on how these brains work differently.
Hi,
And then
good to see you.
once therapies or treatments are applied to folks to see if you actually see any frank shift in functioning and whether that's also associated with a behavioral change. Again, these are not patterns that are that amenable to change. I think that we might be able to isolate what the snapshot of what this looks like in the brain, whether we can then act on it. There the jury is out. Would it then become something that's more medical? Is there medication that could be given? Is it surgical?
Right.
And then you face bigger ticket issues like consent to treatment.
Mhm.
We are in the United States of America, an adult has to consent to treatment. You can't just crack open a person's skull and start fiddling around in there. It's not how it works. Right. And so I think that as much as we think, well, there could be all these magical solutions, people have to agree to uptake therapy. And, there's reasons for that, obviously. But if a person doesn't think something's wrong, whether it's psychotherapy, whether it's medication, whether it's newer therapies, newer sorts of brain stimulation techniques, whether it's psychosurgery, a person has to consent to that, and it has to be really medically indicated. So we have to be careful in how we think about those things.
Dr. Ramani, someone comes to you, a patient, and they say, my husband is a sociopath. I am convinced. What's your first reaction?
I first of all, I hear this regularly, and I get heartbroken for them. Because what it means that they've been enduring is somebody who is likely verbally abusive or ignoring them, neglectful, lacks empathy, is cruel, is cold, is distant, is manipulative. Like they use that one word and it gives me some real insight into what they've been enduring. And by the time they pick up the phone and call me, it often means they've been enduring it for a while.
How severe do the symptoms of a sociopath become?
Like all disorders, it's on a range, right? It's not like there's one version. Obviously, in the milder levels, you're often talking about someone who's cold, angry, brooding, resentful, mean-spirited. At the more extreme levels, you'll see violence manifested. Yeah. So obviously, at the more extreme levels, you're often talking about victims of more physical domestic violence. But I think even at the mild levels, it can look like emotional abuse.
I had it muted because Poppy's here panting, and then I forgot to unmute it. I think that it's pretty important for mental health professionals and then as a result society to understand that the overt physically abusive and threatening behaviors are the tip of the iceberg. And if we're talking about women who are killed, I think it's about one a week in Australia on average, killed by an intimate partner or ex-intimate partner. many of those women, that murder is not necessarily the escalation of increasing increments of physical violence. Quite often that snap is the first display of violence, and it's a lethal one. So I understanding that someone who is cold, like Dr. Ramani just said, cold and controlling and brooding and manipulative, it may well be that the first time we hear about them being violent is when they kill their ex or their probably current partner who's trying to leave. And the most dangerous time for any woman or any person, but for any woman generally, to leave an abusive and controlling relationship, the most dangerous time, I say this every time, I fuck it up every time I say this statistic, the most dangerous time is for that person when they're leaving or trying to leave. And most women on average try to leave a relationship 7 times. And if one of those first 7 times, this abusive can be emotionally abusive and controlling partner is the time that they snap, or their rage is such that they go too far, because once that roller door comes down, that black eyes thing, we talked about that in this first half of this episode, did we not? Was it Karen Mitchell? Can't remember. In the last couple of psychology corners, we talked about that sort of that black dead eye, that psychopath eye. Then it's too late. So it's really important to not diminish, for us as friends and loved ones, friends, loved ones, family members, colleagues of someone who's experiencing these more mild symptoms of dark personalities or of sociopath, psychopathic behaviors, to understand that could very quickly be too late. Like, listen, pay attention. When someone tells you they're experiencing coercive control, and even if they don't articulate it like that with that terminology, financially controlled, demeaning, cheating, all the things, disrespectful, then that could easily very quickly, I know from experience, all of a sudden it's too late. Hi, Kathy, good to see you. Simi is awesome, and yes, really informative. Welcome to Camp Shorty. Here, wait, I'll play this for you just because it's cute, and why not? Because we're learning, right? We're always all learning, and we're sharing our lived experiences with each other. If I can get my words out, yikes.
It's learning time with Camp Shorty. Finding out something new every day.
And then I see Bookie, Ms. Adventurous Book Mountain. Oh my God. We've only been going for 4.5 hours, not in this stream, but I already lost my words. Thanks, girl. This. Ma'am, you are in the draw for about fortnightly Miss Shorty merch raffle draw. Every super chat, super sticker, new membership, gifted memberships, buy me coffee, Cash App, PayPal, all the grift goes in the draw. So let me put down, my pen stopped working. No, that doesn't happen. Bookie, you're in the draw, ma'am. And also, while I'm talking about merch, while we're paused, sorry, Dr. Ramani, she even looks beautiful when she's putting a serious face on. That's you, Bookie. Brand new merch dropping all the time. We're adding new things to the merch store. All proceeds from my merch store go to either paying my mods in dollars and cents or buying them new merch, or both. So the grift is very low here, actually. I basically just want to give all of the money away. It's fine. Pigs' ears aren't even expensive. Yikes. They really are. But thank you all for being here. Let's keep going. Oh my God, it doesn't want to play.
What if somebody comes to you and they say,
Perfect.
I heard this word sociopath, and I'm not really sure what it is, but I think my husband might be one. What? How can
That's
I tell?
weird.
I
Cheryl.
break it down for them because I think a lot of people use the
Chirongo.
word sociopath interchangeably with narcissistic.
Yes.
And like I said, these are labels.
Guys.
I'm interested in the pattern. I'll
Patterns.
say, don't use the word. Tell me what. It's like don't show me a bucket. Dump it out and show me what's in it.
Yes.
Okay.
Great metaphor.
And so I say, tell me what the patterns are. And then once they start laying it out, I say, okay, here's what the pattern is. It makes you feel better to have a word, because I know sometimes they want to keep doing digging and doing research. But then we break down that pattern. So when somebody is experiencing that, like I said, they're experiencing all those things: coldness, distance, manipulation, lying, all those things. And it almost doesn't matter whether it's a sociopath or a narcissist. Neither pattern is that amenable to change, and neither pattern feels good.
So they dump.
Pause. Speaking of sociopaths and psychopaths, Cheryl, I wonder, here, walk and talk, that particular, no, Ms. What the fuck, I'm about to debunk all of that. I have a feeling that because that bumper, that clip, the Learning Camp Shorty one, was created on an Android or non-Apple device, your Apple device is rejecting it. It's saying, stay away, dark personalities, dark devices. No. Can't and won't play it. It could be. Oh, here we go. Sippy says, oh, here we go. We reject everything. Fair. No, anything I've created, which is minuscule, it's tiny. It's like small dick long balls. Everything I've created is on an Apple device. Good God. Oh my God. If anybody is going to be telling me off for the reality of Apple versus Android, it's 1,000,000,000% Kyle. Cheryl, we're in so many cults. Kyle, I swear to God, the majority of this chat is on Android. Weirdos waiting for the news reports of the serial killings in those areas. Just saying. And look, Dr. Ramani is on my side. She's like, y'all with your Android? How dare you? That's assault. I feel like this is going to end up as a clip. Fuck. Look at Dr. Ramani. She is not happy. I guarantee you Dr. Ramani uses an Apple. All of her devices. I bet you she's wearing an Apple Watch. She's not playing. She ain't playing. Yeah, well, you all serial killers. No way. She's definitely. Pile on Android. No, the only reason I could get away with this is because it's my channel. All of you use Androids. Weirdos. Objection relevance. Objection relevance. Objection. I'm dying. God got me. God is striking me down for my blasphemy.
About the
Okay,
bucket,
back to it.
and they're pulling out
I'm a bigot.
verbal abuse, coldness, all of those things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Who cares what we call it?
Right.
This type of person is unlikely to change.
No, they're not going to change.
They're not going to.
No.
We love you, Kathy, too.
So that leaves that person with two options.
Yeah.
Stay with it
Yeah.
and deal with it, or get out.
And when I say they're not going to change, I say that very, as you can see, reflexively. Let's say you get that person who's like, okay, I never thought it would get to this point. You're leaving. Let me give this a shot. And they want to make a good faith attempt in therapy, and they're really owning it. And they get in there and they maybe make some minor changes. In some small percentage of cases, you might see that. Since most people out there, most people watching are not going to be the exception to the rule. I'm going with the idea if their partner is not endorsing any issues on their end, that they're responsible for any of this, then the likelihood of change is zero.
Pause. Cheryl, solidarity. One's in the chat if you're Android. Two's in the chat if you're Apple. One's Android, two's Apple. I'm just saying. I know it's going to be me and Cheryl, and I'm not even in the chat. And the rest of you, Android weirdos.
That acknowledgement of change. So assuming that's what this person
Bookie,
they won't change, and when I bring it to their attention, they look at me like, that's great. I'm not, there's nothing wrong with me. This is you. And they'll often blame the person. So they'll say, "You're an idiot. You're a
You're
fool.
an idiot.
Maybe
You're a
you're the
fool."
one with a problem." They'll undergo a whole new litany of emotional abuse. So you're right.
Wait, is it? We're literally Ramani, Dr. Ramani. Her name's Ramani. I'm not being disrespectful if I call her Ramani because we're like this. She's telling you guys with all the ones dropping in the chat. She's going, "You're a fool. You're joking. I'm joking." Okay, KKK. Anybody watching this on replay is going, "What is happening here?" If they're not a shorty, they're like, "What?" Fine. Okay, fine. It's not fine.
The two options are to either get out or
Apple
stay. And
or
if they
Android.
stay, to understand they're staying under conditions that really aren't going to shift that much.
But how able are we to unbiasedly tell a therapist
Insta.
how our
What is
significant
going
other
on?
Oh, I get it every day, 10 times a day. So that people are, by the time, listen, you go into a therapist's office and you're paying good money. Why would you lie?
I know. I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm saying if I say, all right, like my name's Jennifer and I have a husband named Paul, and I'm saying
Very
Paul is
specific.
manipulative and cold and
Right.
blah, blah. How accurate is that? Because maybe I'm just angry.
Okay, then in which case you're going to get your guidance from that perspective. And that's why it's great to work with couples, right? Because
Both.
if you get to work with a couple, then you get to see both sides. Unfortunately, if Paul in fact is a sociopath, he's going to be manipulative. You know, so you have to be a really skilled therapist to sort of suss that out and smell that out. You'd be amazed how many clients pull out their phone and show me the text messages. And that's when I get a real sense of it. I see the emails.
This is so good.
Yeah.
I bet you people don't realize that they can even do that with a therapist.
They can't always. Some therapists, listen, when my clients come in, they might bring in old photo albums. I welcome all that. They show me the text messages. It helps. Your therapist, though, any of our viewers, your therapist may say no. And I don't ever want to impugn how another therapist works. So I'm
Okay.
not saying all of us will do that. I certainly will.
Okay.
Because because of the sheer number of clients I work with who have been in narcissistic or sociopathic or psychopathic relationships, it's really important to me to never gaslight my patients.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you're not telling me the truth. That's what the world has been telling this person for a while. Like, well, maybe it's not
good
that
point.
bad.
That's a
And
good
they've been
point.
gaslighted by the world. And I refuse to be someone who does that.
No
There's
shit,
a
Kyle.
reason this person picked up the phone, came to my office,
point.
spent the money to see me. And if it's to come in and say, I'm going to give you this sort of mythological version. And do I think sometimes clients do that? Absolutely. Absolutely. And so then what's happening is, probably nothing is changing at home because I'm working in good faith. So at some point they're either going to stop coming because saying nothing you're doing is helping me. But I have to say that it is important for me to honor their truth. I'm a humanistic therapist, and and that's my orientation to be humanistic existential.
love it.
And a big part of that is that your
Same.
truth is what matters to me. And for some reason, you're coming in here and saying this is your experience of this person,
Boom.
and it's not my place to doubt that. I just want to understand it.
Pause. I think that's a really important point, not just in terms of the therapist, but if I've said this before, if somebody's confiding in you, their lived experience with someone who's toxic, being an asshole, controlling, whatever it is, dog fur, like, don't gaslight them. Don't say, oh, it's not that bad. I'm sure she's just, oh, you know what she's like. You know what he's like. Oh, it can't be. Are you sure? No, he was just joking. No, just listen. If it makes you feel uncomfortable to hear that about the other person, if it's a mutual, someone that you know also, and it's really hard to believe them, because what people say and do in private is, people have different faces, right? Different masks. Most people have slightly different behaviors in the work environment versus with, their extended family or their immediate family, or by themselves, or with their intimate partner. But if it's sounding so far different, so far removed from what you see of that mutual person when you're together, if what the other person is telling you, then why would they be making that up? Very few people, if they're going to confide in you, like, believe them. Maybe the problem is the disconnect, the cognitive dissonance, is that person that the confidant is telling you about is putting on a mask to the rest of the world. And what the confidant is telling you is the actual, cold harsh light of reality of that person's true self, or as close to a true self as a narcissist or a psychopath can have.
That is so good. I love the permission to bring evidence, is what I'll call it, to a therapist who's open for that.
You know why they do that though, Kyle? Sometimes people bring that in because they've been doubted by everyone, and they feel like they're losing their grip on reality. That's what gaslighting does to people. It's a doubt. It tests your reality,
And it could be going on for 20 years.
And sometimes to them, they've stopped trusting their own reality so much that they hand over the text messages because they don't think anyone will believe them. It's actually a rather heartbreaking gesture. I am not kidding you. I've had clients come in boxes of stuff. And, and I mean, it's heartbreaking because I think, God, no one has been listening to this person. And they literally feel like they're losing their grip on reality. And that to me is devastating.
So Jennifer comes in. And she's irritated with her husband, Paul, because he's a sociopath. And you tell her, look, the evidence would suggest that he's a sociopath. But I would assume Jennifer didn't marry him when he was doing all those things.
Jennifer did. Here's the thing with these patterns: narcissism, sociopathy, psychopathy. These are long-standing patterns. Now, because of the charm, particularly we see in psychopathy and narcissism, they can often keep a lid on it long enough to get a ring on it. Okay. Sociopathy tends to be a bit more sloppy. I'm not quite sure why.
Because also the thing with psychopaths, narcissists, and general dark personalities, they move fast, man. You are so deeply embroiled. You are so far deep in it in terms of a romantic relationship. Lol, romantic. Thanks, Jackie Fulford. And you probably already will have moved. They will have already moved in, or you will have moved in together, or you're married, or you're pregnant before you even know it, because they work quickly. Because it's an amplified timeline with these people. If we're talking like intimate partner stuff, they do that because the sooner they can get their hooks into you and get you like locked and loaded, locked in, like committed to the dynamic with the fairy tale of it all, then the sooner they can start to dismantle that stability and that fairy tale. Fucking. Ugh. Speaking from many experiences.
People fall for that, but they do. Some people just desperately want to get married. And they're just sort of taking whatever person is in front of them. And they're like, okay, I guess I can work with this. And sometimes sociopaths don't tend to be as successful as psychopaths, but if that person maybe brings enough practical characteristics they can live with, they may be willing initially to overlook the rest. So no, these red flags were here from the jump.
Going back to a conversation we had previously in this series about being mindful and being aware and conscious. Because when you're mindful, aware, and conscious, you can hopefully see that Paul is exhibiting characteristics that maybe won't be good in a marriage. But people so easily go into denial and then get married thinking it'll get better.
Well, that's the biggest mistake a person can make. Nothing's going to get better once you're married. If anything, I put my good bet on things are probably going to get a little worse.
I'll quote my father, who's not a therapist. He said, look, it better be so good by the time you get married, because it's only gonna
a little bit
go down.
I mean, it's possible some things could get better with time, but I have to say that it is, you're absolutely right. And every single client I have ever worked with, man or woman, gay or straight, you name it, any culture, they have said they owned it. These signs were there all along. And if anything, they feel angry at themselves. They feel ashamed and embarrassed, humiliated. Why didn't I see this sooner? And they'll own it. Family, tradition. They wanted to get married. They wanted to be a parent. They thought this person could take care of them. They felt bad for them because they had a bad childhood. Those are the reasons they get all the way in and like, we'll fix this. It's almost like we'll get the house, and it's like a fixer-upper. We'll get the house and then we'll fix it.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
I'll share a personal story. I had a 6-year relationship, broke up in therapy. about it. We didn't break up in therapy, but I'm in my therapist's office reviewing the relationship. And I brought something up that happened in our first few weeks of dating. And that event occurred throughout our relationship. And I told my therapist, yeah, but I didn't know it was happening. He goes, yes, you did. You were in denial. I go, I wasn't in denial. I saw it happen in the beginning. He said that's not going to happen anymore. And I just didn't know it was happening. He goes, Kyle, you knew. You just chose not to see it. And I left his office angry.
Kyle, his name is Kyle. I said, what did I say? Kirk or I couldn't remember his name. Kyle. I thought it was a K name. Mike, no wisdom at 20 or under. I would go so far as to say even 30 and under. I don't know. Wisdom is something you continue to gain if you are open. But yeah, 20-year-olds, man, yikes. They're just babies. 27, still a baby. My husband was just a baby when he died.
Because I go, who are you to tell me that I'm in denial? But then after a few weeks, I came back. I go, you were right. I was in denial. I saw it all along. I just chose to pretend like it wasn't there.
Or make rationalizations.
Pause again. In my opinion, we've spoken about this in previous psychology corners. The more receptive you are, I think it was Ms. Woozy, it was, she was talking about how she's, I think it was, maybe not, reticent to open herself up to another relationship because she's just too scared that she won't see the red flags. And unfortunately, in my opinion, my experience, you need to expose yourself to those toxic people, those dark personalities who for some of us are inevitable. They come like moths to a flame, right? To get the learning, to be able to then use those lived experiences as detectors to be able to detect in the future those red flags as they come up. And then it starts to be like whack-a-mole, right? Like instead of the mole running rings around you, you suddenly see when it pokes its little head up, the little red flag pops up and you're like, hey, I know this. Been there, done that. This is the precursor to all things bad. Abort. Get out. Bail. Get out.
I mean, the other pattern I see folks make is like, he's having a bad day at work. The kids are really noisy. His father's been really sick. I'm waiting until we move by the new house. I mean, it never ends, right? Anyone can write those rationalizations. And while those things may be true as their causes of stress, that kind of bad behavior is unacceptable. Emotional abuse is unacceptable any day of the week.
Amen, sister.
Perfect. I want to stop it right there. That was so many great takeaways. And my big one was going to the therapist with evidence.
Yeah,
I've never done that, and I probably should have.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, but I warn folks that, like they before they show up to their therapist's office with like five boxes,
bringing a file cabinet
with five boxes of records, and they end up to open their phone. Their therapist may say, I only want to hear about your reality. They don't want the therapy to be punctured by outside realities. Like I said, I respect how other therapists work, given the nature of the populations I work with, that I must say it sometimes elucidates something, and it allows them to almost feel heard, and it normalizes things for them, because they'll sometimes say, I have to show you this because otherwise I feel like no one could believe something this outlandish. I say, I believe you. If this helps you, by all means. I'm just trying to give them a sense that I'm trying to help them feel sane and whole again.
Yes.
By whatever path possible.
Yes. What are...
Pause. Now, Ms. What the Fuck, apparently there's been some going-ons behind the scenes, and Ms. What the Fuck has something to show us, and I'm mystified. So what do you got, Ms. What the Fuck? It's unrelated, apparently, but also... it's Camp Shorty, so everything's always linked somehow. There's always a nexus.
It is linked to this comment I just put on the screen. So what happened was I saw this comment and it just made me need to make something. So I did. And then I sent it to Simi, and Simi said I should definitely share that on screen if it was okay. And so you said it was okay. So I'm going to do that. Let's see if it'll let me. So this is Kyle, the emotional support ginger Yeti.
Oh.
And I made 2 versions because this is a very happy Kyle. And this is Kyle doing the work of being the emotional support Yeti.
Oh, so cute. Hey, while I think of it, while we're paused, we were just emotional support. I'm going to do a shameless grift. Wait, but it'll take me 600 years. Do you have the merch store anywhere near you?
Of course I do. Are you kidding?
Could you please pull up the Camp Shorty therapy tops? We've both got, I've got one coming and you've got one coming. Very exciting.
Let's see.
Kyle loves it. Oh my God, I love it.
Oh, good.
We do this stuff at Camp Shorty, Kyle. So what do we got?
So we have 2 different. We have the dark style, which is kind of more the neon-y colors, the purple and the yellow that pop against a darker background. And then we have the light, which is more the neutral colors that pop against the kind of lighter colored backgrounds. And
you got the berry, you got that one, right? Or no, was that in the book? Ooh, you got the sage in this one.
Sage, I think, yeah.
And I think I got that lavender. Is that the last color? Is that blue? Let me see that. Yeah, I got that one. Yeah, I got that one. So cute. So got the cats and Camp Shorty therapy.
Yeah.
Very cute, says Christy. Yes. So if you live for Psychology Corner and you'll also love cats, this could be the one for you. Anyway, thanks, Ms. What the Fuck. Emotional support, Kyla. Everybody needs an emotional support Ginger.
Yes.
Simi's got one. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, back to Dr. Ramani.
What's the first sign someone needs to look at is if they think
Kyle
somebody they know
Kittleson.
is a psychopath?
I mean, if you come to find out that they're breaking major rules, moral codes, ethical codes, or laws.
Christy, thank you.
Now, obviously, on a first date, a person doesn't. I mean,
Mary.
unless they've got their like
Welcome, Mary.
I just broke the law bracelet around their ankle.
Girl, you in the
most
draw?
people
The broke the
don't.
law bracelet.
Yeah. They're not going to. I don't think that most people are going to like put their rap sheet in front of you on a first date. So, but pay attention even to look at how they might handle rule breaking in a relationship. I don't know. They might take something that doesn't belong to them. If you're, from a, like, I don't know, place of business or a hotel or something, it may feel like a small transgression, but it'll be enough to make you uneasy. They may share something that they did at work that feels like it's on the wrong side of shady. There's enough of those little things start to accumulate. And, the danger is that you're like, wow, they're really slick. Like they're a hustler, they're a player, like you think you're in some sort of cool movie with them, but it's not cool. It's actually, they're breaking rules and they're doing it over and over again. And that might be a sign or a signal. They just are
smart, Hari.
and it may end up culminating in more and more stuff, and you may find it out. I think one of the most devastating things that people have said to me when they've been in relationships with psychopaths is what they learned down the road. They come to find out that this person had a history of incarceration, that they may actually be married to someone else at the same time, that they lied about their occupational history, that they lied about bills that went unpaid and which are now ruining their credit.
Oh my God, the lies. When the Stephanie blah 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 knows this one, so does Ms. What the Fuck. But someone in my life that was claiming to do all the things across the board, all the things. Hi, Butterfly. Good to see you. And when it turned out that literally none of the things were being done, oh my God, like fucking hell. The rude awakening was just the betrayal, the abuse of trust, and in a position of confidentiality and confidentiality and teamwork makes the dream work, except when the work ain't being done. Jeez Louise, Dr. Ramani is startled by that. She's got the best facial expression. So expressive.
Go try to buy a house and find out, oh, they had 2 bankruptcies in their past or something. So it may be something you don't learn early on. Nowadays with Google, you might be able to look into people. Psychopaths have a tendency to use aliases. They may not be who you think they are.
Wow. Does it look, do psychopaths look different depending on the role they take in your life? For example, a significant other versus a coworker versus a family member?
Absolutely. You got to remember, a psychopath's front game is the best game in town. Smooth, glib, charming, intelligent, articulate, perfectly put together. I mean, you really need to know what you're looking at to be able to catch them in what they're doing. So they're going to be, if they're trying to attract you as a new partner, they're going to bring their A game. If they're trying to impress somebody in the workplace, they're going to bring their A game. However, if you're someone who's disposable or dispensable to them, or someone they view as you're in their service, God help you, is all I have to say.
If you find yourself in a relationship with a psychopath, or you believe that your husband or boyfriend, let's say, is a psychopath,
Run.
are there any questions you could ask them to maybe find out if you're right?
I would say that what you want to do is look for inconsistencies in their story and find out, talk to people who know them. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go CSI on this and start this interrogation of everyone who's ever known them, but try to see if there's continuity, if the dates line up, if their life story lines up, if, you know, he might have said he went to college in one place and another person's like, yeah, when they graduated, they were working at this job, and you're like, something's not adding up. Psychopaths often go out of their way to isolate their partner from other people who know their histories. Look for that pattern too. Why aren't you being introduced to anyone in their past? They'll often say, I was done wrong, and they'll make up some dramatic story about how everyone did this to them, so they have nothing to do with anyone from their past. That's pretty rare that somebody would cut off everyone, all friends, all family, all extended family.
Sorry, Dr. Ramani. Christy says, I learned about my ex's alternate Facebook identity from my child's babysitter who sent a friend request. It's hard to see when you're in it. However, red flags are being thrown a lot, right? And I think Kyle, mentioned before, this Kyle, not Kyle in the chat, Kyle on the screen, Kyle Kittleson, the host, you know, and I spoke about it too. Like, if you notice the red flags subconsciously and you don't want to notice them, like, it's hard, but it'll be harder when you're so deeply embroiled in the disaster that is a relationship with a dark personality, a narcissist, even just a toxic fuck. So hard to get out. So, but yes, if they're so well hidden, like Christy says, and you have no idea whatsoever, like a complete alternate sort of persona and life or history, once the door is opened for that awareness, you can't close it again, right, Christy? Yikes.
Maybe that they're on a fresh start path and they're sort of reinventing themselves, and that you're in the eye line of a grifter kind of person at this point. So look for inconsistencies.
Maybe I'll call you Mr. Kyle. Mr. Kyle? Mr. Kyle. Like I say, Ms. What the fuck? And just Kyle? Mr. Kyle? Kyle. Eesh, I'm going to try. Lol. Professional.
Psychopathy is not a diagnosable term.
No.
But can someone have psychopathic tendencies but not be a psychopath?
You know, I mean, then again, you're splitting hairs. You're splitting hairs because, like, psychopath, because there's no diagnosis. It's not like if you have 5 psychopathic tendencies, then you're a psychopath.
Right.
You know, the people who have like really are breaking rules in this consistent way, and they're cold, and they're and they fail to take responsibility, and they're deceitful, and they're manipulative, and they're exploitative. I mean,
pause. 6ix9ine, don't tell Stephanie blah blah blah. She fucking loves a tall guy. Yikes! You should have kept that under wraps, Sibby. she's gonna do adultery, commit adultery on me with bloody Mr. Kyle. Mr. Kyle.
These things tend to hang together.
Mhm.
It's very rare that a person exploits other people, but then they're really sweet and they do bake sales and they run a Girl Scout troop.
Mhm.
Like, you're not going to tend to see those things kind of hanging out together. These things cluster together. So the more of them you have, the more likely you are to dealing with somebody who is truly a psychopath.
I like the takeaway of looking for inconsistencies
Mhm.
in this person.
Mhm.
And if you're in a relationship with them, you do have the option to leave.
Mhm.
But if you have a coworker, for example, you can't necessarily leave them. So how do you adapt to working with a psychopath?
If you suspect you're working with a psychopath, that what you want to do is you really, really, really want to cover your bases. Remember, HR is not going to help you unless you have documentation.
Mm.
You can't walk into HR and say, hey, the person in the next cubicle is a psychopath. They'll be
Yeah.
like, okay, that's
Yeah, I
really
watched
helpful.
a MedCircle video,
yeah,
and I
and
just
this
want
is
to
what
let
I
you know.
So I always tell people, anytime you start on a new job, you almost have to be kind of paranoid. You save every email, you make folders, you get that stuff off the server, you print it off. Like, there's all these steps that you really should engage in if you think you're working with a psychopath. But you want to make sure you document things. You want to avoid having meetings with them one-on-one. You want to ensure that there's a third party present.
Mhm.
You want to ensure minutes are being taken of meetings. You want to, most times people scan minutes and don't really pay attention.
And then you'll have a target on your back because probably your psychopathic colleague is chummy with your toxic dark personality boss, and then you're fucked. Just saying.
Pay attention
Yes,
to those minutes, because that
this
might
wants
be
to
the
go out
only
again.
documentation you have. And then you want to make sure you have alliances at work, people that you can trust. But what you don't want to do is gossip about the psychopath, because they're better at that than you are. They're already stabbing you in the back and numerous other places you can't see, way ahead of you. They're going to play this game better than you. So you're best off playing a clean game
Yeah, yeah,
than trying to beat them at their own game.
yeah. Really good advice. What about for family members?
Mm.
How do you know if your mom or your dad is a psychopath?
That's incredibly painful, because I got to tell you, one thing I've seen in more than a few family systems is some people don't refuse to believe it. Like, I refuse to believe that. We're just being dramatic. And they'll say they're not a psychopath. And so you'll have these families that'll be schismed and split. Like, people will say, I think you're exaggerating. I think that,
Kind of similar to when a family member reveals that they were abused by another family member as a child, like sexually abused, and the horrifying reality of that truth is often too much. Quite often you'll find the abused become the ostracized, shunned one, right? Not our shunned one. Because nobody wants nobody wants to face the truth because it's too brutal. Same with, to a lesser degree, like, I'm dealing, ex family member is so and so family member is absolutely a psychopath or a hardline narcissist. If they're only showing that side to you, and if you're so deeply, the family unit is so deeply in sort of enmeshed, and the coercive control patterns in a family dynamic are such that nobody can extricate themselves from that because they're so fucking brainwashed by the coercive controlling tactics of said family member, close to impossible.
they'll actually gaslight the person who's making the accusation. So it can be very painful. If you come into the realization that one, or God forbid, both of your parents is a psychopath, that's a very painful revelation. But I got to tell you, you probably figured that out as a child. Psychopathic parents tend to be abusive, neglectful, manipulative. One of the more famous psychopaths out there is Bernie Madoff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's used as a classical example of a psychopath. When you look, and he was very wealthy and he raised his children up with tremendous comfort, he certainly wasn't beating them with a stick or, locking them in the basement or depriving them, but there was a cruel edge to him. And his kids would acknowledge that. And if you watch any retelling of that story, it's definitely not a comfortable relationship. Some people will have high functioning psychopathic parents, a dad who's a CEO or a mom who's really, really, successful at whatever it is she's done. And they'll report like having two parents, the public person and this really cruel, invalidating, malevolent, horrible person that would come home, and they'd note the dichotomy, how seamlessly their parent would go between those two worlds. And so, and put their child through unrealistic kinds of expectations. So people, it's not like a person wakes up at 30 and says, "Whoa, dad was a psychopath." You knew it.
Is there such thing as a self-aware psychopath?
The funny thing about psychopaths is I don't even think they'd get mad if you called them psychopaths, because they don't care what anybody thinks of them. So if you go up, they'll laugh it off. You wouldn't be like, even a narcissist would get super defensive. But a psychopath's like, you want to call me a psychopath? Call me a psychopath.
Okay, so that's how they respond. But do they think,
They're not,
yeah, I am a psychopath?
Yeah, no, they're not affected by the evaluations or labels placed on them by other people. What they don't like, though,
I know they're not affected by it, but do they recognize that they are a psychopath?
maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, they might. In some cases, they might. And if anything, it's like there's a sadistic glee. You see what I'm saying? Like they may recognize it.
Like how cool that I got.
Like how cool. Like I'm a psychopath and I'm getting away with it. Or I'm a psychopath and look how much money I'm making. Or, it's almost like I don't know, it's like finding a bag of money on the street dropped by a armored truck, and like no one's around, and I'm picking this up and I'm walking down the street and I'm getting away with this. Like their whole life is about getting away with stuff. So if anything, that psychopath might even be like a badge of honor. But I think they're impervious to the criticisms of other people. That's where they're different than the narcissist. The narcissists hate being criticized.
Right.
The psychopaths don't mind.
Yes. What are we not talking about when it comes to identifying a psychopath that people need to know?
I think that with a psychopath, it is really about looking for inconsistency in mood, inconsistency in life history, inconsistency in their stories. The problem is we so want to believe when we meet someone new that their stories are real. And I've just met this super cool person, that we make the puzzle pieces fit even when they don't. I tell people, be a cynic. When the dates don't line up, recreate it. Listen, Google's making some of this stuff possible too. And it's not like I want everyone to, like I said, go out there and play like junior detective. But if you're being isolated from anybody who knows anything about this person, pay attention to that, before you entirely buy their recreation of the events. Look for things that don't add up. They have this huge job, like they're so successful, but they don't have enough money to get through the month. But can you help me out this month? Like next month, the big payout's going to come out. So I've got everything covered from then on in. Anything that feels like a hustle is probably a hustle. We are seeing that there are programs like, for example, prison transition programs and other programs working with more like incarcerated antisocial personality disordered groups that have found some utility in some forms of social skills training, group therapies, some luck with cognitive behavioral therapies. There has been some good work there. Listen, at the end of the day, it's like, the old joke of how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? One, but needs to want to change. It's the same thing with antisocial personality disorder. The person really has to need to want to change. And, you may or may not have that. I have to be honest with you. It's more of those slick.
I was just closing the door because the dog's in and out the back door. It's right there. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? One, but they have to want to change. I love that.
Glib, charming, almost if you want to call them white collar psychopaths that you're going to get absolutely nowhere there. I think there's absolutely no chance of change there. I think actually in the criminal populations, you may be able to do some level of job training, social skills training, meaning and purpose focused work. And I actually would put my bet on the incarcerated population more than I would on the sort of the slick, the slick, sophisticated, successful group of psychopaths, quite frankly, because there's almost no motivation for change. They're getting rewarded for their behavior.
That's right. They're in their world, they're killing it.
They're killing it. And the world is telling them they're killing it too.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe cured is the wrong word.
Yeah.
Could a person who's psychopathic, could they at least get to a point where they're not breaking the rules?
No, they don't want to.
That's obviously the goal. And that's the goal of,
so.
Rehabilitation after prison and, that kind of thing, is that there is no recidivism. When we try to avoid recidivism is where we're trying to prevent a person from committing crimes again. But, criminal behavior or illegal behavior is just only one part of what we see in antisocial personality disorder. We're also seeing violation of ethics
Thanks for
or
stopping by,
morality
Kyle.
or
Mr.
social
Kyle.
norms.
Mr.
So, for example, somebody who is antisocial personality or psychopathy is very likely to cheat on a romantic partner if they have one. They're going to probably keep doing that because they're really almost immune to any sense of morality. And so that's not going to change, which can make it very difficult to maintain any kind of trusting relationship with somebody like that. So I think that some of the treatment targets, maybe in terms of illegal behavior, they may be willing to bring some of that hustle, if you will, to more legal behavior. But even then, you'll sort of see that their tendency is going to want to take moral and ethical shortcuts.
What does the treatment actually look like for these people?
You know, a lot of it is, again, it's cognitive behavioral. It's challenging their beliefs and changing them, their beliefs and thoughts, in a hope of changing their behavior. That's really what you're trying to do, right? And so that's where you're sort of pushing back on their cognitions, pushing back on their schemas, on their sense of.
Look, I'm going to have to invoke my my medical education and training and work history to say, I don't think you can change anything. I don't think you can change anything. I don't think there's any possible chance or hope that a psychopath or a sociopath is going to want to change or care to change, because why would they? They're perfect. Like, why would they? I think this is a disingenuous, honestly, answer from Dr. Ramani. Clearly, she has a little more of an idea than I do, but I don't know, man. It feels counterintuitive, right? Arca, hey, Arca. I like saying Arca, but okay, Arca. To a sociopath, other people don't exist. To a psychopath, other people exist, but only for their use. That's how Dr. Drew explains it. Yeah. I think from my understanding and research, it's actually that to a narcissist, other people don't exist. And other people exist only for their use for a psychopath. But yes. Why am I thinking that? It's very in-depth psychological theories and to do with the individuation and the separation from the mother, like the mythical mother, not the actual maternal female. Although for most people that is a woman, a maternal female, or not maternal, but the mother, the actual mother. And because a narcissist has never actually become an individual, all of the things a narcissist does is to feel that sense of being an individual and to exist. A narcissist wants to feel real. A psychopath feels fucking real. They're everything. Like, yeah, and everybody's a pawn. I agree, Arca. I don't know. And I think like anything, depending on, because like Professor Sam Vadkin, who is himself a diagnosed malignant narcissist and the forefather of mostly all of the research into narcissism and psychopathy, but mostly narcissism. He comes from a very research-based angle, and then Dr. Ramani comes to all of this from a very treatment-based, dealing with the survivors or the people who have lived through being the victims of narcissistic abuse. So, and I haven't watched any Dr. Drew. I probably should. But you got to, the distinction between sociopath and psychopath that Dr. Ramani has been talking about is that generally psychopaths tend to be, not generally, almost as a rule, psychopaths tend to be more clinical, more successful, more calculated, cold, and sort of surgical in their delightful display of psychopathy, whereas sociopaths tend to be more messy, sloppy, often more overtly kind of aggressive or combative, whereas the psychopath goes more surgical in everything they execute and inflict, and tend to be more successful. You're more likely to find psychopaths in high levels of business, like academia, medicine, law, teaching even. Whereas the sociopaths are more likely a garden variety fuckheads in prison who can't control themselves because they're not as surgical.
How the world works, trying to enhance their sense of empathy, to really help them focus on this is how people are being hurt, especially if it's it's not like person on person crime, like violent crime, something that feels more remote, that to help them sort of see that this is hurting somebody else and the people around them. Now, in a person who's really a cold, stone cold psychopath, they don't care. So I don't care
Keep
if I'm
listening,
hurting
Lisa.
someone. It doesn't matter to me.
Right.
And so if that's the case, how are you going to make change there? If I don't think something I'm doing is wrong, like if somebody tells me tomorrow, like it's wrong to turn off my bedroom light when I sleep, I'll be like, what?
Yeah, we're just going to
Why is that a problem?
That's a really good way to put that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how far it is. with them.
Yeah.
I go, what do you mean? I got to make $100 million?
Yeah.
So this is what
I'm going to do it to do it. And this is how I'm going to do it. And no one's going to stop me. Or it's a game. Again, I'm going to bring up the Bernie Madoff case because he's sort of like a real textbook kind of a psychopathic, antisocial personality sort of person. In some ways, it's almost like it was gamesmanship to him. At some point, how much money does one person need?
Well, and isn't that the proof?
Right? It's
That's the
gamesmanship.
proof.
Yeah, that's all it was. And it felt like that's what it was, despite literally so many people's lives being destroyed by his decisions. It absolutely didn't even seem to, the game was more important than the other people. And that's what it is. Like they are players who really only care about the game.
So someone's watching this. I doubt they're psychopathic.
No,
they
I don't
probably
think
are in a relationship with somebody somebody who
or a
is,
family member
or a family member.
Or work with them.
Or work with them.
Yeah.
They are likely going to be advised to go seek therapy for themselves.
Yeah.
In that therapy session, what do they ask the therapist? Because what I want to have happen for them is that they don't have to go to 5 therapy sessions to figure out what is a psychopath and what all these things that you're educating them on, and giving them the tools to ask the therapist so that maybe in the first session they can make a ton of a gain.
It depends on the relationship with the psychopath. Is this your child? Is this your coworker? Is this your husband? Because obviously the nature of the relationship is going to have a lot of bearing on what you need to know. For example, if it's your child, the question a lot of parents are going to have is, am I responsible for this?
Well, we'll go into the whole child thing in our next video.
Right.
So let's assume that this is for a loved one.
So you mean like a partner?
A romantic
partner. Is it possible he can change? Because he keeps telling me he will. We have kids together. Can I expect that he's going to be a decent co-parent if we have kids? Should I be scared? I keep giving him second chances, but it never works out. Why not? Is it possible he'll change? Those are the kinds of questions you're going to, that somebody should probably ask. And, by and large, if that person has any expertise whatsoever in psychopathy or antisocial personality, they're going to be able to give you some straight answers on that. Like I said, these people are not made for long-term intimate relationships. They're not.
And what if somebody's in the position where their partner makes all the money, they have nothing in savings,
common scenario.
and they have 5 kids?
Yep.
And they come to a therapist and they say, you're telling me he's not going to change, and you're telling me to leave for all these reasons?
Therapists won't tell her to leave. I wouldn't tell her to leave.
Okay, then, but they're saying this is going to be really tough. And that person says, I want to stay in the relationship. Now, what's your response to that?
Then I'll say, look at the history of what it's been like so far. That's how it's going to keep being. Okay. He has not been listening to you. He's not going to start. He has been cheating on you. He's going to continue. He's been disrespecting you. That's going to keep going. Like everything you're seeing, I said, at least you already have the roadmap. Expect nothing. Expect
but
nothing.
never
Do
lose
you
hope.
help them with coping strategies?
Things like continuing, if they can, continue to stay in therapy, group therapy. I do ensure that people, women in particular, who are in relationships with men who have antisocial personality disorder or psychopathy, have access to domestic violence resources, because that's not an uncommon pattern in these relationships. Encourage them to cultivate some of their own interests. Encourage them to cultivate friendships, and their part.
Well, Arca says go one step further back, and why is she attracted to a psychopath? I think, okay, so I think for myself, having found myself in like 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 2, definitely one psychopath, and about four varying degrees of narcissists. No, actually, probably definitely 2 psychopaths. But yeah, fuck. It's only now at 50 that I understand that the glib, smooth, love bombing, mirroring of everything, all the good things about me that the other person puts in your face, in their, like, they dark empath you, and they know what you want. They extricate your deepest, darkest secrets, and you feel like you've made a connection with that person because they're seeing you as a target, as a source of narcissistic supply, and us being me. Or I'll talk about me being someone who up until then was just holding out hope that there would be that person, and to be clinging on so like tenaciously to the hope that there is that person. And the predator, a psychopath is a predator, so is a narcissist, but from a different kind of take. The narcissist just wants to suck you dry and help them become a real person. A psychopath just wants to destroy you, right? But both of them use the same tactics, which for a vulnerable person who has a certain, vulnerable emotionally, who has a certain need from childhood to be seen, to be heard, to be loved unconditionally, and to find that perfect person, that is what a psychopath and a narcissist presents to you as being. They're not. They're just a husk. They're just a shell. Whether that's a husk with zero substance, or an evil, malevolent shell of a person who is evil to the core, like a psychopath. It's too late. Once you're embroiled in that, it is absolutely too late to easily untangle yourself from that. And if they ensnare you, and they wrap you so firmly in their coercive controlling tactics. They dismantle your sense of self systematically. They feed you lies. They love bomb. They give you little breadcrumbs of what initially they showered upon you. So there is absolutely some ownership from the victim, whether that's a man or a woman. But it's the psychopath and the narcissist and the sociopath who have actively gone out and enabled or initiated all of their best tactics to get you to a position where you are absolutely enmeshed in that relationship. It's textbook stuff. So the people that I have been, none of them showed any particularly, like, there was nothing. Now I can see the flags, and I can look back and see the flags, and anybody that ever tries to come near me ever again, I'm so finely attuned to it, it will never happen again. But you don't fall in love with the psychopath. You fall in love with the mask that they present to you. That's what they do their whole life. They're very good at it. So I see Grumpy Bear's in the chat. I was just soapboxing. Hi, Grumpy Bear. Good to see you. How's Miss Sherry? What if we are listening to two psychopaths talk about psychopaths? Well, I don't think either of these two are psychopaths. And most there wouldn't be much conversation psychopaths to like. I mean, that's a big one. I mean, I think you're probably being facetious, but people who are at the top of their field generally have to have some of the mildly narcissistic tendencies to get to the point where they are at the top of their field, like a super soft, super sensitive empath probably isn't going to get there. So you've got to have some of those little characteristics. But we've spoken it before about how to have a cake, right? To have a cake, you like what's in a cake? Flour, eggs, milk, usually butter, baking powder, baking soda, maybe some cocoa, sugar. Did I say sugar? Vanilla essence. If you've got some flour and some vanilla essence, it's not a cake, right? Same with psychopaths and narcissists. If you have like just a bit of asshole behavior and maybe some entitlement, that's not the whole cake of narcissism. It's just some of the little ingredients. So you don't get a whole cake. You have to have all the ingredients to make that cake, if that makes sense. So that's why we kind of like right now, Dr. Ramani and Kyle Kittleson are talking about sociopaths and psychopaths. And the first part of this episode was about the differences and similarities between borderline personality disorder, substance abuse disorder, a bunch of other things. But now we're into the depths of psychopathy and sociopathy. And so we're going hardline into the psychopath, sociopath. In other of our Psychology Corner episodes, I'm careful to nuance it and say like toxic people, assholes, narcissistic tendencies. But here in this one, all the way, psychopaths and sociopaths. Hi, Colors, good to see you. Now, mind blown. Boom. Me? Hi. Now, we have got a poll. Because I've just stopped. Wait, and rather than going back, let me see what's the poll doing. Is what the fuck? We have a poll. Have you voted in the poll? We're going to a song. No one said hard no. Ooh, if you haven't already voted, vote something, because at the moment we have a tie between lies and girl, you okay? So 38% each, but only 8 of you have voted. So, and that's including me. I voted. It's a great question, though. I love it, and it's one of those like, if a tree falls in the forest, did anyone hear it? And nobody hears it. Did it even fall? You know. Lainey says lies is my vote. Well, I don't see the poll. Oh, colors. IDK. It's there. Anyway, let's go. Like, I'll give you a little minute. So somebody voted. Huzzah! Simi says I voted. Excellent. Now, where were we? What are we doing? Let me see. I'll get another break in the conversation of Dr. Ramani, and then
partner will probably try to isolate them from those friendships, but create, even if it's online communities, and I do want to tell Med Circle listeners, the guidance we're giving right now is not meant to serve a person who's in a violent relationship. If you are in a relationship where you or other children or other dependent adults in your environment are in danger, you must seek help immediately. You must seek domestic violence services, law enforcement. And keep in mind, if you're researching those resources online on a computer, make sure you clear out your cache every time, because it's not unusual in those relationships for a partner to go through and search everything you've searched. It's that level of control. So, I mean, I do want listeners to understand.
Bingo. It absolutely. I'll go back to. I'll call that another natural break, and then we'll go to the song when it moves. One more minute. I'll say my little thing, and Ms. What the Fuck can end the poll. So if you haven't voted, oh my God, They're all good songs, so it's neither here nor there. So I've spoken about him before. My very highly abusive ex George. At this point, I didn't really understand anything about narcissism. This was in 2018, the year that broke me, and I don't remember because it's all rather blurry. Trauma's a bitch, right? But I was able to. I lived in a security building, and so I was able to set some very clear boundaries. He didn't have access. He wasn't allowed he wasn't allowed in, and it didn't stop him from insisting on, like, oh my God, the coercive control. Anyway, I remember so my life was very much in danger, hence all these measures. He threatened me all the time to kill me. He used to say, he goes, I'll kill you. I'll knock you. He'd say, I'll knock you, which meant I'll kill you. And I'd be like, I know you are. I know you will. Just so long, whenever it happens, just make sure you do it quickly, painlessly, and do it soon. Like, just to put me out of my fucking misery, right? Thanks, Grumpy Bear. It's cool merch, right? And yes, colors. It's a blend of 3 different things. Thanks. Now, so I'm tying it in. There's a point to my story. I recall when I had this revelation, and I don't remember why or how I got to this point. I came across an article, a link, and it was 19 or 9, I think it was 19 tactics that narcissists use to in their toolbox, right? The things they do. And my mind was so fucking blown. Suddenly I could I could understand, I could identify what tactics this person and my son's father, to a lesser extent, where when he was still in my life, had been doing to me, and I was intoxicated with this newfound knowledge, and I was safe in my security. I was on the 27th floor penthouse, and he couldn't get to me, and I was and because I had nothing to lose. He was going to kill me eventually, but I'm still here. And I just used to spit these facts at him and just laugh like a lunatic, laugh with this newfound knowledge that I knew I could put a name to, and I could identify all these different things. The gaslighting was huge for me. So my knowledge and my understanding of this is in the last 8 years. It was about August of 2018. It was amazing. It was amazing. Scott Metalhead says that's why I got into true crime. Yes, it's intriguing, and when you can look back on your life and go, and I spend all day every day making those little connections from everybody. I still have aha moments all the time. I had one about my parents, my father, just the other day. In fact, another story. Remember when I was telling you all about how when my dad used to come home from work, my narcissistic father, he's not a psychopath, he's just a narcissist. And I used to insist on, I like helping, right? I love helping. I love approval. I love being able to captivate people's attention in conversation, because in my lifetime, people often don't listen. I think that's why I love that you all listen to me. I don't know. Can't imagine why you do. Anyway, I told you that story about how he used to get home and I will have baked him using, frozen puff pastry and some jam, or whatever you guys call it, jelly, no, jam with chunks, and made it into like a turnover, a jam turnover. And he'd get home from work and I'd stand there and I'd insist on him eating it in front of me, even though he had poured his gin and tonic. And I kind of relayed that story in the last couple of weeks to you all. And it only just dawned on me when I was driving home or driving to work in the last week, the last few days. Oh my God, I was doing that because otherwise he would get home, he would make his drink and he would go into our big decadent living room, 150-year-old house, with his gin and tonic, do work, because he's an academic, do work until dinner time. We'd eat dinner. And then he'd go back into that room. He was an absent father, whether he wasn't physically there because he was traveling for work, or even when he was there. So me baking this little thing, I had him. He had to stay. He had to give me some praise. Beautiful, delicious. Like, he wasn't a total psychopath. He'd eat the thing. It probably wasn't delicious at all. And for those 5 minutes. So rare that I would actually have him pay me some attention and give me some praise. I just had that revelation. Like, I'd always thought of that story, and I know that I didn't get much praise or recognition or attention from my parents. But yeah, interesting. Another mind blown. So always thinking about it. Arca says jam is higher quality jelly in America. Yes. We just call it jam, whether it's got chunks and bits and pieces or it's smooth. Now, Ms. What the Fuck says, lies. 42% wins. Girl, you okay? 33%. Love song bullshit. I think that's what I voted for. 25%. And hard no, 0. So hard no was a hard no from chat. Amazing. Now, look, we played the Jim in Nick Jim, Baby AI Nick, in the last live stream. I know you weren't here. Maybe you were. We'll do with the Nick in the car, this one.
Now some music. The Supreme Leader decrees it.
Enjoy.
Lies, 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 done with your lies, standing up to you. Enough's enough, we're done. And you know none of it's true. Big loud voice with conviction, got receipts to show you don't want to see, not listening. Okay, well that's on you. All y'all want homogenous, not doing it, that's boring. Watch me sparkle, watch me shine, but then take endlessly. Lies, 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 done with your lies, standing up to you. Enough's enough, we're done here now. You know none of it's true. Hush now, it's happening, it's taking back the power. Oof, y'all done with the lies, not your finest hour. There was a time when we were shaking, conditioned to be silent. That time has passed, vindicated, now you hear us scream. You know none of it's true. Not here to please anyone. What is it that you're wanting? Cardboard cut out, oh hell no. Revolving door, let's sing. Lies, 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 done with your lies, standing up to you. Enough's enough, we're done here now. You know none of it's true. Sit down, shut up, relax, now get the fuck out. Don't like what is being said, that's fine, just walk away. Lies, 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 done with your lies, standing up to you. Enough's enough, we're done here now. You know none of it's true. Don't let the door hit walking out. If real talk it offends you, bye bye girl, we had a blast. Lies, 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 done with your lies, standing up to you. Enough's enough, we're done here now. You know none of it's true. We don't care, we're saying it, you know we're slaying it. You lie like the air you breathe, amusing what you see. I serve without flinching, there is no lynching, so lies.
Hey, we're back. We're back. Good song. Good choice. I thought while Colors was, excuse me, complimenting me on my lip color, I would show you I'm a collector. Let's go to a minute to autistic as fuck collector lady. So this is my little container of, they're not all lip liners. They're not all lip liners, boys. Sorry, walk and talk. We'll deal with it. They're all lip liners. They're all very similar colors. I have a penchant for lip liners, and then every single lip liner that I put on, I'm like, I don't know, man. And so then I put another one over the top, and then I blend it with another thing. So that is that a cheat color? No, that's then I've got this is my thing of lipsticks, which isn't as big because I don't really like lipsticks. But that's they're my lipsticks, and then some glosses. They're usually all nude. Like in the real world, I like a look of just if I was wearing any lip color, like when I used to wear makeup in my daily life, but not live streaming, was always nude. But on stream, it looks a bit weird. Anyway, yes, that's that. So let's go back to Ugh. Psychology corner. Thanks, Ms. What the fuck? I love you. What do we do? This and this. Now where were we? I've forgotten. So many side quests. We went on like a full round the world side quest.
And that what we're talking about is situations where it has not escalated to violence, financial abuse, things that are putting you at abject risk. This is not a substitute for the guidance somebody needs in that kind of a situation.
yes.
And it can go there. And with psychopaths, not uncommon.
Is creating an exit strategy for the relationship ever part of therapy?
It is a part of it. Now, unfortunately, this is where you start sadly getting sometimes into the world of restraining orders and really painful custody hearings. If the
Sorry, Dr. Ramani. Christy asks, is that a lot? I don't wear any makeup, so I don't know. I mean, when most of them are almost, there's basically 3 colors. They're all variants, mostly of the same 3 colors. Like, they're all like, it's negligible, the difference. Like, these are all very similar, not this one. So it's probably a lot to have multiples of the same color. I go and I think, oh, buy some new lip liner. And I come home and I'm like, oh, fuck, that's exactly the same as 4 others that I have. I do the same with nail polishes. Not that I wear nail polishes anymore. Anyway, Lainey's going to do movie night. Lovely. Lovely. Mwah.
antisocial personality pattern has more financial resources than you, they may try to crush you in court. They will be able to charm the judge. They will be able to charm the attorneys. They'll be able to charm the custody evaluators. I have seen these things go really, really badly for people. People losing custody of their children, people getting limited custody. Sometimes the psychopathic parent wants custody of that child, not because they're interested in the child, but to stick it to the other parent, which is not good for anyone in this situation. So I do tell people, you need a plan. You need a strategy. You need supports. And after all that, it still may not go your way. And I wish I could give people like a really sugar-coated version of this, but people say, well, the judge is going to see right through him. Not necessarily.
Well, I'm glad you're not giving a sugar-coated version, because what we're doing here is giving the reality, of mental health. And the reality on this topic is what you have just described. And let's not move away from reality because it makes us feel good in the moment.
Right.
Let's lean into it so we can work within the realms of what's real and make as of the best decisions as we possibly can. And I think you've given a lot of our viewers actionable steps to take.
Absolutely. But you have to, I mean, these relationships can become dangerous.
Yes.
You know, and it's also, listen, I'll tell you this, if a person's psychopathic or antisocial personality partner is really high functioning, they are like the head of a company or some sort of like really high up in a political structure or something like that, the world may not believe them.
Yeah.
And that's even more horrifying. And in fact, women who are more wealthy are often less likely to seek out domestic violence resources, which is not an uncommon situation in these relationships. I mean, this is a dark space. And again, I think some people may be watching now and scratching their head and saying, how did a person not see this? How did they get in the first place? Listen, you know, a lot of flash, a lot of sizzle, everyone around you saying, oh my gosh, he's so generous. He's so nice. Oh my God, he's flying all of us on this great vacation, or, you know, he's taking care of you, or he's actually, you know, let's say you have a child and he's
Pause, call back to the story I've told you all before about my delightful father, not a psychopath. I don't think so. Definitely a narcissist. When my husband died and I had a mortgage, the remainder of a mortgage, and a car that I wanted to, I couldn't drive anymore. I didn't want to drive anymore. So, and the funeral expenses. So my delightful father, very ostentatiously, offered to, actually it was his wife, but same, to pay off the mortgage, purchase the car and pay for the funeral. But it was a loan. So at the funeral, everyone was like, oh my God, your dad's so amazing, paying for the funeral. Like it was $10,000. So nice. He's so good. He's such a good man. Oh my God, I can't believe he paid off your loan, your mortgage. Can't believe he bought you a new car. Mind you, from a multimillionaire with multi-million dollars worth of properties. And this was 24 years ago. So the value, like it was multi-millions then. But then when the sale of my house came through and the time came to made quite a good profit, time came to pay back because it was all a loan. That it was $187,000 worth of assistance ish, give or take. Maybe it was 190. I think they gave me they loaned me some spending money as well, so I didn't have to work for a short period of time. Thanks. But when my house sale was finalized, I was required to pay back not only that, let's call it 190,000, but with interest, because my stepmother lost money. That money she had invested. So for those 4 or 5 months, the money that she'd lost in interest, I had to pay that back. So that's lovely. From 2 multimillionaires, I'm an only child. Okay, so ostensibly to the public eye, wow, they're so generous, they're so amazing. Wow, they're so kind, so generous. Your dad is so nice. Right. It's all in it. It's all a transaction with these people.
It's offering to take care of the child too. That all looks really good to the world. And a lot of people don't stop under those circumstances to ask the right questions.
Well, that's a really good takeaway for people who know somebody who's in a relationship with a psychopath, to make sure you ask and check in. Yeah. And when I sat down with Kevin Hines, who survived what normally would be fatal jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, he really drove home the point of checking in with people, asking, how are you, but meaning it. Not the, oh, hi there, how are you? Good. That's surface.
Oh,
no
it
one's
is
ever
what it is.
listening to that. We're really
That's
going,
the least of my
you're in a
worries.
relationship with this person.
With those people.
But how is it?
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling when you're in a relationship with them?
People don't often like to pull back that curtain. I don't know whether it's because they don't want to know the answer or whether they feel like they're prying, that it feels impertinent or something like that. Especially if, I think even if you don't know someone well, it's okay to say you've met them. How are you? Like, is it good? Is it a good relationship?
Absolutely.
I think people are often like, what? Why would you even ask me that? I think it's an interesting question, because if it's a great relationship and it's healthy, you'd say, I'm so fortunate. Like, it's a really, really happy relationship. At a minimum, it would make anyone stop and think.
Dr. Ramani, explain why first a child cannot be diagnosed as a psychopath.
Because it is a pattern, a diagnostic kind of a label that's saved for people over the age of 18. Antisocial personality disorder is not diagnosed until somebody is over 18. But in children, we can look for patterns that really conform to delinquency. These can be milder patterns like truancy, cheating on school assignments, to more severe ones like physically or sexually assaulting peers. It could be things like torturing animals, setting fires. All of these behaviors, if you have, I think, 3 or more of these kinds of behaviors, they qualify a child to be diagnosed with something called conduct disorder. Now, these kids typically get handled through school and juvenile justice systems. They may be placed in special school settings. They may be sent to sort of special boarding school settings if the family has the money. Sadly, some of them may end up in juvenile detention settings as well, where we know they're grouped in with other kids doing these things. So sometimes they actually learn more criminality in those settings.
Same as in prison.
So if you're noticing these patterns in a child, they're bullying, any of those things, you want to act swiftly.
Early
and intensively. I think part of the reason this is always so tricky is that sometimes it's kids being kids. It's, that childhood play and all those childhood fights, that's just kids being kids, that's boys being boys. And that's often used as a defense of something that people could get ahead of. But it's also not that simple. Nowadays, we have a new issue to look at with kids, and that's their online activity. You may not have a kid who's going to school and making trouble there, but what you might have is a child who's really getting into some dark online spaces, whether through social media or even websites and sort of social networks that aren't that as commonly used. You want to watch their video game play. While the research associating violent video game play or video game play and violent behavior is equivocal at best, we're not seeing consistent patterns there. Is your child locked up in a room all day playing those video games by themselves? Are they socially isolated? How do they treat their siblings? Are they interactive at family gatherings, or are they distant and remote? So there's a lot of places you can witness this child. And there's a lot of ways. It's not just the acting out. Some of it is also that extreme social withdrawal. You're their parent. They don't get cybersecurity. You get to go through their
That's right.
stuff.
And that's a good thing.
Yes, it is a good thing.
Like
Yeah.
if you're at the position as a parent where
Mhm.
you feel like your kid is exhibiting
Mhm.
some of these signs and
Yeah.
symptoms, be happy that at least they're not 18, so that you can
might
take
be able to
control of
get
the
it. You can take
situation.
control. Yeah. And a lot of parents, listen, a lot of these kids are more savvy in the electronic spaces than their parents
Yeah,
are.
that's the truth.
So they're able to, really bury things, and they might be on websites and extreme websites that parents don't even know exist. So it's getting more, and sometimes more and more challenging to monitor all of these kinds of situations where kids could be going down some really perilous places. At that point, you can really only engage in early intervention, like I said, in part through the schools, in part through people who have this as a specialization, and at that point, hope for the best.
I talk to so many of our viewers, and so it helps me to learn what helps them.
Mhm.
And one of the things that they've shared with me is that when they're watching videos like this, and you just said, look at if they're isolating, if they interact with people at family functions, and you went through this list, go back in this video, play those responses again that Dr. Ramani just gave, and write down those questions. And over the next week, 2 weeks, a month, write down what you're observing, because we get so caught up in getting the kids to school, getting to work, packing lunches. We miss the parenting
We
part
do.
sometimes.
We don't always pay attention. We
No,
don't.
and so if you write that down and you actually take the time to look and write out,
Yeah.
then you can take something to a therapist and say, this is what I've been observing, right? So we have some track record here, and we start to expedite the process of therapy so that they get as much correct information as possible.
And one thing that's also tricky, Kyle, is, and as a parent, I can understand this, is some parents just are in a place of denial. They don't want to even let themselves go there. Like, it's terrifying to think not only could something be wrong, but your child potentially could be dangerous to other people. And parents think, well, maybe it'll be different in a new school. Maybe it'll be different next year.
Maybe this is a phase.
Maybe this is a phase. Exactly. Maybe it is. But better that you do explore it instead of saying 2 years later, I wish I had started something back then and started trying to get to the bottom of this. It's hard. If the child is oppositional enough, even getting them into a mental health practitioner may get you nowhere. But I think
I just had a thought. I wonder whether there are any studies talking to the parents of school shooters. Wouldn't that be an interesting study? I wonder if there is. Surely there must be. And there's a plethora. There's an almost infinite supply, sadly, in your country, of school shooters. I wonder if anyone's done any research into the warning signs, excuse me, their thoughts prior, right? Simi says that would be fascinating. Colors says it would be. Probably not, though. It would be what? Fascinating? Probably that there probably isn't. I wonder. Just Dr. Ramani talking now about parents, not just in a broader sense, and talking about being dangerous and, children more likely to be holed up in their rooms on their devices, and God knows for the most part what they're doing. Interesting. Very interesting.
parents to at least know that you gave it a shot, the more resources you throw at something early,
yes.
the more likely you are
Yes.
to have a good outcome.
Yes.
I wonder.
What do you wish more parents would be doing?
I think I wish more parents would be willing to have emotional conversations with their kids early. I have to say that we're having a real crisis of emotional expression in our culture. And I think sadly it's concentrated in men and boys, where we're not giving them permission to talk about their feelings. We view vulnerability as weakness. We view talking about feelings as weakness. We feminize it, and that's supposed to make it weak too. And I think a lot of some of the bubble ups we see in men are just an inability to talk about their feelings, their fears, their anxieties, their vulnerabilities. And I think sometimes parents are even afraid to go there, to open those Pandora's boxes. And with technology, kids have become sort of almost like we're speaking two different languages in a household. And it's just to give permission to those conversations. And you don't, and I think parents often feel they have to give solutions to their kids. Sometimes all you need to do is let them talk. Let them talk and listen. I have to catch myself on that all the time. I happen to have a very long commute to school for my daughter. That I used to try to say, well, let's fix it. And it took me a while to say, I'm going to let her talk. I'm going to let her talk and talk and talk and not try to bring a solution to it every time. And which is hard when you're a psychologist.
Well, I find that funny that it's hard. I would think it'd be so easy for you to just listen because you are a psychologist.
But it's your kid.
It's your kid. You want to fix your kid.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think many parents, even well-intentioned, are, it's time. Like you said, you come home, you're making dinner, you're running around, you're doing homework. This whole sort of like, let's just sort of climb under the covers and have an emotional conversation. When does that happen? Make the time. Make the time.
You just caused a light bulb to go off in my head. I've shared in our depression series with Dr. Sue Varma that at 9 years old, I was diagnosed with clinical depression, completely suicidal, was put on Prozac. And I shared more of my depression story throughout that. But throughout my life, but during that time, I remember I'd have episodes of like I would say panic or anxiety or just really emotional outbursts. And I would end up in my room in bed and I would be just wishing that my mom would come in and talk to me. I wouldn't go to her.
You wouldn't go ask her?
Ever. No, I would never go talk to her.
That's such an important thing
I
to
was
share.
like, oh gosh, I hope so. And when I would hear that knock on that door open, it was just like relief came because I go, she's going to let me talk now.
Yep.
And it was I didn't realize it then until you just said that, of letting them talk.
Yep.
Giving me that outlet to be like, here's what I'm feeling, here's what I'm talking about. Because for whatever reason, I couldn't manage it in a healthy way.
I think we as parents, it's not we don't wait for our child to come get us.
Good.
We have to be the early warning mechanisms. We have to check in on our children. That balance will shift one day.
Yeah.
That won't forever be our responsibility, but it really is about paying attention. And again, it's something I've been rueful about myself as a parent, very busy. And there've been times I wanted to give advice when all she needed was an ear, and I guess we learn and we evolve and we keep trying to get it right.
If a parent does take their kid to a therapist and they are diagnosed with, I always forget the name.
Conduct disorder.
What are the chances with the right intervention that this kid will not develop psychopathic tendencies as an adult?
My knowledge base in this area isn't good enough for me to give you a specific probability. I would be uncomfortable doing that because this is such a high stakes game. Sure. Let me put it this way. Your stakes are much, much better if you do take them to a therapist than if you don't.
Yes.
You're improving your odds. I think a lot of it's going to depend on the child's pattern of behavior, the environments they find themselves in, the resources to help the child. There will be other adjunctive programs around that child. For example, there are some programs that use things like martial arts and those kinds of like physical kinds of programs to actually channel some of the strong feelings these kids have into the discipline of martial arts. So you'll see some of those kinds of programs. Somebody I know works on those kinds of programs with gang-affiliated youth. So there's different kinds of innovative programs out there that meet kids where they are at, using art, using music, using physicality, that you want to use as many of these resources as possible to give that child a chance to express themselves where they may not be able to find the words, they may be able to find another outlet.
Give us a few tips for parents on those initial therapy visits with that child.
When you bring a child in for therapy initially, now while different therapists who work with kids under 18 work differently, most of them, almost all of them, are going to want to meet with the parents once and sit with you, because many times a child won't be able to relate their own developmental history, like were there any birth complications or their milestones or all of that. So they'll need the parents to do that. And then you'll have to work out with the therapist sort of how you're going to communicate about it. With a child who's well into adolescence, that child might want a private space, and then you agree with the therapist on when she will contact you or he will contact you if the child's in danger, if there's symptomatology they're concerned about. You want to make sure that the adolescent feels fine with that. With younger children, it's less of an issue. That tends to be more of an open book and more open conversation. You as a parent should ask some questions on how they work with your child and what kinds of things that they're going to be expecting of a child. Will they expect your child to do anything between sessions? So I think that it ends up becoming collaborative. I also have to say, Kyle, it can be useful for families to enter family therapy where everybody's in the room, mom, dad, or whoever the caregivers, whether it's two caregivers, whether it's a single parent, siblings, and the child, because these tend to be systemic issues. I think there's a real risk of sort of labeling that one child as the problem child, which that child is probably already experiencing that sense of identity within the family, especially if their other siblings are playing by the rules and they're not. That by having family therapy, there could be a chance for everyone to kind of get a little bit more aware of the dynamics. But it's early intervention, it's regular intervention, it's multimodal intervention, meaning we're using different techniques to help them out, it's monitoring, and then it's a leap of faith.
the stakes are never higher when it comes to a child.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And what are we not telling parents about psychopathic tendencies in their kids that we need to be telling them?
You know, we're learning more and more about this. I mean, I think it's something that movies sometimes show in this kind of scary horror film kind of sequence. It's an area where there are some specialists who are doing work in this area. It is hard because there's so many moving parts here. Listen, for the child who's coming from a really abusive, deprived, violent home, I'm not so sure that they're going to be watching this. If the parents are abusing them, I don't know that they're watching videos to figure out how to help their kid. So those kids are likely potentially to have poorer outcomes because
but
there's
it
nobody
could be
looking
an
out for
aunt
them.
who got custody of the kid or something who's now trying to
Yeah,
fix
but
it.
in that kind of scenario, exactly, now that the child has a consistent caregiver to that family member or someone else who may have stepped in this child's life, regular intervention. And that child may be really diffident and have their arms they're going to do that.
Yeah.
They're going to stonewall, and they're a child. And you're going to keep trying to find that way to get in to them. And that's why therapists use all kinds of techniques, even playing games with a child. I mean, therapists who work with children are very, very creative and very gifted. It's very difficult work to do. And there are people out there who specialize in this. And there are also experts who sort of cross that line between sort of the justice system and psychology, who sort of are working, know about the cutting edge programs for young people who are vulnerable to either developing criminal behavior or who are you engaging in it.
I want to thank you first for sharing that, because this is hopefully, and I believe, will change the path of so many kids.
I hope so. I don't think that people understand. And I think for me, especially on a day I'm clinically working with clients, is the devastation that's wrought when somebody abuses a child.
Yeah.
For me, it's a passion. It's a fight. It's an absolute. There's something about it that the sheer innocence of a child, that they place their trust in the adults around them, and that trust is betrayed. That ramification is lifelong. It is self-doubt. It is sometimes self-harm. It can be mental illness. On the bright side, yes, we often can see resilience and growth and empathy and lots of other things. And we can also see darker patterns like psychopathy and sociopathy. But I think that I cannot stress enough how important it is to safeguard our children. They are our children. They're not your children or my children. They are our children. These are the people who will be taking care of the world as we get older. And our complete disregard sometimes for the welfare of children is concerning for me. This is why I want people to listen to this and really get that sense that pay attention to the kids around you. Pay close attention. Because for many folks I've worked with over the years, even students I've talked to, if one person had listened to them and paid attention to them when they were children, things could have turned out quite differently.
Yes. You mentioned in previous videos that people know once they become an adult if their parent has an antisocial personality disorder.
They may not know the label for it, but the odds are if they had a psychopathic parent or a sociopathic parent or antisocial personality parent, I should say, they would have either had a parent who abandoned the family. That would have been very common, like disappeared, or who physically harmed them, either themselves or their mother, or the people in the family, or who might have gone to jail, for really committing some sort of heinous crime. So there's going to be some sort of ringer. They just may not know what it's called, but they'll know.
They know something.
Yeah, they'll know. Yeah, it's not subtle. It's not subtle.
How many of these kids who are now adults have relationships with their parents who are psychopathic or sociopathic?
It depends. It really depends on the nature of the parents' transgressions. Obviously, somebody abandoned the child. Some people out of curiosity as an adult may circle back and want to try to have a relationship with that parent. If they were horribly abused by that parent, they often won't. But, listen, it's amazing how many people who had abusive parents still stay in the game with their parents. I don't know. Maybe it's almost like a loop. They get stuck in still trying to think they can win them over, or something would change their behavior. So some do, certainly. Many don't, because of the parents' transgressions were either so awful or just pull them out of the child's life and never to come back again. Well,
I think out of all the categories, children and parents are the most difficult, because I do have the choice, even though it might be very difficult to leave a partner. I do have a choice to quit my job if my boss has antisocial personality disorder, but I can't go get a new biological mother. No. And I can't go I guess I could have another kid, but I still got the one that I have.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking about it being your parent, can you quit a parent? Sure.
You're right.
You can.
You're right.
I think that the heartbreak I see in folks is when they realize
you can, but the societal pressure to diminish or gaslight your lived experience with that parent and say to you, but they're family, but they're blood. I'm sure that my daughter has that said to her relatively often, if ever she mentions me to friends, acquaintances. Yeah, dirty pause. She's like, very intense. But if you have to set a firm boundary, and I've said this before, I'm not a psychopath, although the monkeys try to say I am. Okay. I respect my daughter, Sammy, her decision that her life to be feeling calm and happy and well adjusted is better without me in it. I respect that. Same with when I didn't have my parents in my life by my choice, not when they abandoned me, just setting boundaries. People would say, yeah, but they're your family. And people often say to me, oh, I'm sure your daughter will one day. It's family, blood, family. She'll come back. Maybe, I hope so. But it might be easy-ish to quit a parent yourself, but it's the people around you. And that goes back to that, believe the person. If a person's decided that their life is more calm, happier, better, less stressful, more emotionally regulated without that parental figure or child in their life, then nobody does that for an inconsequential reason, do they? So respecting that person's boundaries, whether it's your own like alienation from the child or the parent or someone who don't say yes, but give them another try. Like, come on, they're blood, it's family, you have to. No, you don't, and no, they don't. Like, I would hate to think that people ever put pressure on my daughter to reinitiate contact with me. If she wants to ever, I will be here with open arms and an open heart and no excuses. I will never ever try to justify or diminish her lived experience despite my own lived experience and what I recollect of things. Nor do I ever expect or hope that my parents would come back to me after abandoning me. And I'm never ever. Like, you got to respect people's own perception of their reality. And no one, that's a pretty rash thing. It's a rash, tough decision to make, to cut family from your life for your own well-being. So it's really important.
Their parent just did a bad job. They were neglectful. They were abusive. They should not have been a parent, bottom line.
Yeah.
That awareness is devastating because you're right. You do only get one set of parents. Now, and they may not always be biological parents, Kyle. Sometimes adoptive parents come into the scene in that person's life, and that's the only parent they know. It may be a slightly more, it could be a more complex dynamic if that adoptive parent abused them, making them wonder, could this have gone a different way? But ultimately, it's the sense of loss of, I feel like I've been robbed. I could have had a healthy parental relationship, which is such an important relationship, not only for a child, obviously critically important for a child, but also even in adulthood. A person feels something's been stolen from them. However, I think then that's getting caught up in somebody being given a job they probably weren't good at, which is namely your parent. Some people,
Simi, I don't know what your dynamics are entirely, but I think that some particularly narcissistic people, like, this is a clear indication that I'm not a narcissist, because if I was a narcissist, contrary to some belief, some folks out there's belief that I am, lol, I would be outraged that anybody would consider that I had ever done anything wrong, i.e. my daughter, that I'd ever wronged her or in any way. I would see that as a slight and I would be outraged by it. I'm not. I spent 4 or 5 years, I've spent almost a decade processing all of that and coming to terms with the fact that for whatever reason, she's out of my life. But some people who are trying to set those boundaries, and lots of people find boundaries really hard, even simple, non-complex, inconsequential boundaries, people struggle with that. So to have people in your life in your circle saying, but they're family, even if it's just an acquaintance and not, it might be like, that's a guilt trip, right? It's a guilt trip. And you should never guilt trip somebody into being obligated to be in your life or be in someone else's life. Like, it's not out, like, I don't know, like, often family dynamics are usually fairly complex, right? Misadventurous Bookie says their internal validation is reliant on external validation. Right, exactly. And also a narcissist can do no wrong. On its face, internally, they know they're the most scum of the earth, non-human person that could possibly exist. They are nothing. They are nobody. That's why they do everything they do. A psychopath, but a psychopath and a narcissist, they're always in the right. They've never done anything wrong, and they will never admit that they have done anything wrong. Neither of them. So that there's that very nuanced dynamic between parents and children or siblings that is really hard to go into a black and white. Yeah, but they're family, and it's not cool to guilt trip anybody, whether it's the person with you, the direct alienation, whether it's up to the parent or down to the child, or across to the sibling, or whether you're talking to a friend who's got that alienation and you're trying to influence their decision. It's just really, it's toxic as fuck.
Who are good at this actually seek out mentoring figures in other adults. It may be a grandparent, it could be an aunt or an uncle, it could be some other trusted adult in the family system, or it could even be a mentor they meet along the way at the university, at high school, in a job, that they find someone who becomes that fathering or mothering figure to them, and they have that relationship. There's still a yearning. Gosh darn it, I only wish this had been the parent I had been born to. Life doesn't always look the way we want it to, and by fighting, this is my parent, it needs to be right, and fighting for something that's completely futile that you're never going to get, that feels like a waste of time.
So I want to break this into two categories. Then. The first category is for the people who are in the position where, look, I go to Thanksgiving every year and I see my parent and I have to know
right on time, Steph.
And the second one is for the people who say, you know what, I've moved on from them, I've separated, but I do need to recover from what I went through.
That's fair.
And perhaps both people need to recover. So let's start with the first one. What do you tell the people who still want or feel like they need to have a relationship with their parent?
When people feel like
Keep listening,
need that,
Lisa.
then I say to them, you got to manage your expectations. You got to get realistic about this. They're never going to be your cheerleader. They may be downright jealous of you. They may try to undermine you. They may try to take money or resource from you. They may try to manipulate you, because these are all the things they've already done. Right. So they're not going to stop.
Yeah.
So can you go, instead of waiting for something, you're waiting for that I love you that may never come, or that I'm proud of you that may never come. And so you're waiting for something that may not arrive. That can be heartbreaking. But if you can say, listen, I want to know I like the idea that I have a parent out there somewhere, and I know they're always going to get it wrong. If you can get down with that and really manage your expectations, then go ahead, have your relationship with them. But to keep being surprised that they're acting badly after a lifetime of acting badly,
right?
That it actually feels illogical.
It is illogical.
And this is illogical because it's a matter of the heart. But you have to be realistic about the expectations you bring into the situation.
That is, first of all, so simple. My favorite things are the simple ones, though, because they're often underrated and the most powerful. This has been going on your entire life. Just because you're an adult now and can point at what it is, doesn't mean it's now going to be different.
Nope. Right? And if you could just let it go, put it down, realize this is the hand you were dealt. Yeah. And just like in a casino, sometimes you're going to have to fold the hand and say, I'm done flooding this table. I'm good.
You say, let's
pause. That's one of my biggest forms of advice, my pearls of wisdom to anybody, not just about family dynamics or relationships. You need to process the reality of a situation or a person or a dynamic, understand why, be able to put some knowledge, some research behind the whys and the hows of that dynamic or that situation or that person. With that knowledge, you are empowered and you can come to an understanding and an acceptance, and then you can put it all down and it doesn't make you angry or sad most of the time. That's for me, coming to terms with all of the loss in my life of my loved ones in the past, and like very fucking painful. The things I said or did that did contribute, egregious or minuscule or somewhere in between. The reality of that other person, those other people's set of tools and personality traits and lived experiences, current and past, that impacted on their trajectory through that sort of separation. And I can think things are still sad, things are still distressing, but I don't feel it doesn't, all those things don't hold me back with anger. I have moments of wistfulness, but I've been able to set those things down and leave them where they are because I can't change them. Not then. I can work on myself, can feel better about myself, so forgiving of myself because I did the best I could possibly do in my life along the way. Not most of us are generally trying to do our best most of the time, right? And it was the best I could do, and what happened, and here we are. Forgiving yourself for things and not holding on to the shame of things you can't change is really important. Really important to be able to move forward in life, in my opinion.
That go and meet for me, it translates to forgive. And you're getting that, Jake. And I want to hear all about that response, because my definition of forgiveness is giving up hope that the past could have been any different.
My God,
It doesn't mean I say
forgive yourself. I don't think you should have. I don't forgive my parents for the bullshit. I don't. They're fucking assholes. But forgiving yourself. That's why Dr. Ramani went, no, because people who say, you need to forgive the people who hurt you or harmed you or inflicted trauma on you in the past to be able to move on. No, you don't. You just need to process why and what happened, how it happened, the evolution of that trajectory. There's that word again. And once you understand it, you've processed it all, you can leave it there. You can leave it there.
What you did was okay. No, it was terrible. But I'm going to give up the idea that my childhood could have gone any differently, because it couldn't have.
That's fair. I actually, what you're describing, I tend to use the word acceptance. I use the word acceptance. Forgiveness to me is
I'll stop pausing, but I just want to, full disclosure, I actually haven't watched, I think I told you this last week. I think I watched about the first hour and 20 of this. So this part I haven't watched yet. So, oh ye wise sage Miss Shorty, saying all the things that they're going to say. And it's not like I've watched it and oh my God, I'm just parroting what they say before they say it. No. I'm bragging now, Simi. Is that bad? I'm bragging. Braggadocious Shorty. It's me.
This
Hi.
happened, and I no longer resent you for it. There are not many people I know who reach that bar. Like, I forgive people who might cancel dinner plans. I can live with that. I don't know that I would forgive someone who fundamentally betrayed my trust. Depends. It depends. But only you know.
We could have a whole conversation about the
only
forgiveness.
You know. It's about forgiveness. Here's the problem with forgiveness.
Okay.
When we hand it over to another person, we expect them to treasure it and to treat it as the really almost divine gift that it is, which is, thank you so much for this, because it feels almost like absolution, right? I'm going to honor this and I'm going to get it right. And I am so sorry for the hurt I caused you. Thank you. Thank you for seeing through to this better part of me. And they make real change. That's an example of forgiveness working out. But where forgiveness can be devastating is when you go out of your way to forgive someone and they turn around and they do it right back to you again.
Which they would do. Yeah, for me, forgiveness is not even about that other person. For me, it's all about me.
Okay.
It's me really taking a moment with myself to go, you know what? That is that's something that happened. It's out of my control now.
Okay.
Cool.
I am either going to
I'm so
dwell on
fucking
this and
wise.
get angry and
I love that for me.
ruminate on it, or I'm going to go.
And you're okay with them doing it again?
If I'm not
No.
okay with it, but I accept that that's their behavior.
Okay.
Accept.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I call it
And
acceptance.
if I've made the choice to have them in my life,
Right.
then I have to know it's coming.
Because so if you forgive them, because forgiveness to me is very much and many people argue what you do philosophically. Forgiveness is an act to the self. Okay.
Yes.
It's for the self.
Yes.
So but to me, that's letting go. Like I can
Letting
say,
go.
let go of something. When you let go of something, it doesn't necessarily mean you've let go of the resentment. Does that make sense? Like I've let this
100%.
go. I'm going to tell you though, it's changed this relationship.
Yeah.
That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is really kind of like a little bit more of a reset. Now, if you read Desmond Tutu's work on this, and he was the Nobel Prize winner from South Africa. If you read his work, he gives a much more nuanced take on forgiveness, and actually, his work is some of my favorite work on forgiveness because he really does say, like, this has changed the DNA of this relationship forever. There's no getting past that. But I mean, I think we're talking about that. So we're circling around that drain of forgiveness, letting go, and acceptance. But people use the word acceptance, but they don't really mean it. They'll say, I accept this. What do you mean you just did that to me again? I'm like, well, hey, slow down, sister. You just said that you accepted that.
Yeah.
I didn't really mean it. Well, then you didn't accept it and you didn't forgive it. So be clear on the terms. And listen, some people, you might really transgress on them and they may truly forgive it. And they'll be like, okay, and you're going to do it again, and you're going to do it again. And that's not what most people have signed up for.
That's called being a doormat. No,
And
thank
sometimes
you.
when people feel like I've given you this divine gift of my forgiveness and you keep abusing it, that feels like utter devastation to people.
Uh-huh.
In your practice, do you find that your patients talk about their parents a lot?
Number one.
Right?
We don't
that's
start there.
That's like the stereotype of Freud and
You
all
know
that.
what? We don't start there. We start on what brought them in, which could be marital problems, work problems.
Colors, that's a really good point. I feel like the person has to actually apologize to be forgiven because the person apologizing and making right would come first. Yes, most people, in my experience, and chat, you can tell me if you've had the same experience, very few people actually apologize. Most people double down and they dig themselves in further. They don't accept or take accountability for something, or they'll justify it and they'll make excuses. Yeah, I didn't mean to. That wasn't my intention. No. I did that because X, Y, and Z, and you did. There's very few people who just go, yep, I fucked it. I'm sorry. I fucked it. That was shit. That was shitty of me. I'm sorry. Most people don't want. It's very hard to say I'm sorry. Very hard to say I'm sorry. As a child, I remember being physically pained when I'd be sulky or snarky to my mother, and my dad would say, "Lisa, you need to go and apologize to your mother for whatever it was." And I'd be like, "No TV until," I think that was the thing. No TV until you apologize for whatever it was. And I honestly, it would eat me up on the inside. I'd be standing out in the hallway where my mother was sitting in the television room watching whatever, and I'd be like, I can't. So hard. I don't know when in my life I overcame that, but I do recall how very difficult I found it to apologize. And I think a lot of that was because I was being told to apologize. Now if someone told me to apologize, I'd probably have that same response. But I feel deeply when I hurt somebody. So I don't think waiting for an apology from someone, like how many people in the last 12 months, like literally it's laughable, if we were holding out for an apology from these people, like, whatever. I don't expect an apology from anybody. And the handful of apologies that we did get over Christmas too, were both fake as fuck. They didn't mean it. Lol. So I don't ever expect an apology from someone. One can hope, but in my experience, everybody that I've felt I've been betrayed by will yeah, right. Lol, like actual lol. Hi Laura, good to see you. The number of times when people have fucked me over, they did that. Fucked me over. They did that knowingly. They're very extreme cases. And not just in the last year, but in the last sort of 8-10 years. Like I'm like, you, that's fucked. Treat other people how you'd like to be treated. And no one who intentionally, not intentional, that's intentional. Get the fuck out of here. If they're people who hurt someone else and are okay with that, they're never going to apologize because they don't give a fuck. Because why? They're probably a dark personality who literally doesn't give a fuck that they hurt somebody. Case in point, psychology corner. Sorry, Dr. Ramani. We're back to you. We got about 15 more minutes of this.
Problems.
Thanks for being here, everyone.
Low self-esteem, problems with their weight, anything, but it's current. This other's rarely does a person come and say, "I'd like to unearth the damage underwent at the hands of my."
But I'd like to start.
You know,
Pause. Ms. What the fuck's gonna kill me because she put this in the private chat, so I didn't read it out, but it's very good, and I just ruffled about it. So Ms. What the fuck says, "I hold on to grudges like love handles." I love that. I don't. I can't be fucked with grudges. I've got a lot of people that I do not forgive, but whatever. Like, just miss me with it. That's so good. That could be merch. Ms. What the fuck? You need merch. I hold on to grudges like love handles. And look, Kyle thought it was great too. He's pissing himself laughing there in his dirty paws.
Yeah, what happened 35 years ago?
Right.
At some point, though, especially since my work is in people who are trying to be
Hey,
survivors
Rita.
of
How's it
narcissistic,
going, girl?
psychopathic, or other sort of toxic relationships, if you will,
Excuse me.
I need to understand where their precedent came from. Why do they think enduring this is okay? And many times we get some of those answers in their childhoods. That's why we explore there. I'm not a psychoanalytically trained or a psychodynamically oriented therapist, but I do very much believe that when we look at the patterns of someone's life, we learn about things like attachment, the nature of their sense of security in their close relationships. We learn what they were rewarded for and what they weren't rewarded for, or if they were rewarded at all. We learn what they learned about love and what a relationship looks like. We learn if they've had a history of trauma. We get a lot from understanding those early relationships.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful for people to hear, because hopefully they have or will take the step to go into therapy and not be afraid to talk about the truth when it comes to their parents. I have found in my personal experience going to therapy that I often protected my parents to the therapist. He would ask me a question point blank and I would paint it so that my parents looked better than maybe they actually were. And I found myself doing that. And then of course we discussed why I was doing that, but coming from that honest place of your upbringing is super powerful in therapy.
Yeah. And it's not always easy. People feel they're being disloyal. It's something that goes back to childhood. You know, children feel incredibly loyal to their parents. And so even as adults, we hold on to some of that.
Well, isn't that true? We've all, mostly everybody, that goes back to that, but they're family, right? That goes back to you must be respectful to your parents. I guess it's probably possibly changing a little bit. Maybe the I don't know, the generations, all you young kids, the ones below the Gen X's, the millennials, the Zennials, what's the new, that latest one? Are they called betas? I don't know. What are they called? I don't know. Something. I'm sure you'll all rectify me. I wonder whether the kids of today will have less of that obligatory, innate sense of obligation to not diss the parent ever, because they're all so fucking rude, these little kids these days. Sorry, I'm sounding like such a boomer. I'm a Gen X boomer. Anybody who doesn't say please and thank you to their AI, Alexa,
Objection relevance?
Siri. Objection relevance. Objection boomer. I'm a Gen X boomer proudly. I dabble in boomer-esque behaviors. We're the forgotten generation. Color says, I feel like some of this happens with creators and their audience. The downward expectation of respect when it's not reciprocated from top down, it's all upwards, right? Yeah, I agree. I'll go so far as to say that there's a bit of a Napoleon complex and a little bit of dark personalities going on in that stuff, right? Those people who demand respect but are not able to give it back, because respect is a two-way street, isn't it? Yeah, I agree. I strongly agree. But also this, to be successful as a YouTube creator or a creator, the loyalty thing. Yeah, man. Yeah, the loyalty. Say respect and loyalty. Loyalty. Well, loyalty is a form of respect, isn't it? Yes, I strongly agree. But I lost my train of thought. It'll come back as soon as I press play. Yeah, I think that it. Oh, that's what I was going to say. There it is. Thank you. Grabbed it back. Pulled that thought back in. It takes, to be successful, financially successful, analytically successful, and consistent, and to even think, to have the audacity, to have the balls to think that somebody would want to listen to you talking, and then to have people to actually want, you get to show up and have your face on screen, and have the mild to major ego to think that what you have to say is going to be worthwhile. And I think that stuff like numbers in this day and age, where clicks and views and likes and having a fandom goes to a lot of people's head.
And coming
Not
out
me.
about them. And
I'm
also
so
there's some
down
of
to
it's
earth.
self-protective, and therapy doesn't need to, because therapist is probably never going to meet your parents. Your parents might even be dead. You know, and people still feel that it's deeply disloyal.
Yeah,
so it's an interesting space for people, how protective they can even be of their abusers.
Yeah.
When they talk about those histories down the road.
I think I know the answer to this, but do you find that people who were raised by parents or a parent with antisocial personality disorder end up in a relationship with somebody who is perhaps in an antisocial?
People who witness abusive relationships as children, there's a risk that they may enter those relationships. At some level, violence got normalized. At some level, they think that might be all they deserve. Likely where there was domestic violence, there was also, at a minimum, verbal abuse of those children, if not also physical abuse. So it's
also to those folks, that's what love is, right? For me, my parents were kind of publicly affectionate and the perfect couple, and privately quite distant. My dad is such an absent person, absent, emotionally unavailable. He's a narcissist. They both are. But so for me, that emotionally unavailable role model is kind of what I've ended up with. And then when someone shows me the love bombing, hyper soulmate connection, that's just irresistible to me, which goes back to what we were talking about before, when Arca asked, why are some women attracted, or some people attracted to psychopaths? Why do they fall in love with them? Well, it's either what we've grown up to see, or the extreme opposite of it. Both one seems familiar, predictable. The other seems like, too good to be true, because it is.
It's a sense of devaluation. That's why I was saying I get so angry when I hear that children were exposed to early traumatizing environments, because it changes their worldview, and more importantly, their view of themselves, and then ultimately the choices that they make. Now, that again, I always want to stress to listeners, if you came from a family of origin where there was antisocial personality or psychopathy and there was abuse, are you doomed to repeat those cycles? No. A lot of this is awareness, that you actually go out of your way, you get therapy, you're very mindful and aware. It's when you're not aware, it's when you are in denial, that you're at risk of making those kinds of errors again.
Yes, but it's the awareness followed by the action. It's the awareness and then going to therapy. It's the awareness and seeking out this education. It's the awareness and talking with a friend, so getting the support system. That action is so critical.
But it's also the awareness and being mindful. And allowing when a signal's given to you, it's only useful if you're willing to heed it.
Isn't that the truth? That is the truth. Say that one more time.
When a signal is given to you, and there's lots of them in these relationships.
There's lots of them.
It's only useful if you heed that signal.
Yes.
And when a lot of people realize, like, there was that signal and I chose to overlook it for any number of reasons, had they stepped and walked away then.
So much better.
Yeah.
I've done that. Many times.
Yeah.
I actually last night was telling my friend, I said, when this thing happened in my relationship, I should have just called it, but I didn't.
But Kyle, here's where I'm going to be kind to you and everyone listening and
Please
to
be kind,
myself,
yeah.
is that there's a point at which sometimes if we walk away too soon, we then get forever sort of hamstrung by the itch of regret.
Yes.
Did I step away too soon?
Pause.
I mean, what I want is for people to,
For me, that's been one of my biggest contributing factors to why I've actively chosen to ignore the little popping up whack-a-mole red flags. But what if there was a time where I was like, nope, I'm not even going there. But what if you got to give them a chance? No, if the signal is there, don't ignore it. If there's someone else, there's someone else. If there's never anyone else, that's fine too. I'd rather have nobody than have some toxic piece of shit.
to feel that they can take that moment, take in the information and the experiences around them, trust their feelings. And when it starts feeling uncomfortable, that they can give themselves permission to either communicate about it or walk away
Both.
with the least damage
Both.
possible. If you did walk away at that first signal, you might have spent the rest of your life wondering, well, was I too much of a cut and run guy? Like, did I not give this a full chance? Versus I saw this thing through. And if anything, I stayed at the funeral way too long. This body was buried and the food and wine were gone and I was still standing
Yeah,
there.
you are 100% right. You are 100% right. And I do take some bit of, I feel good about that, knowing that. Well, at least I know.
I know.
This was not
There's
it.
no, and my goal is to get people away from like obsessing over those lingering doubts. Like this doesn't.
Hi, Brooklyn. Good to see you. Who is this cute boy and is he single? His name's Kyle Kittleson. He is very cute and he is gay as gay. Maybe you can turn him. I know I'm heterosexual and am quite easily turned by many of the women that we have on our screen together at Camp Shorty. He's lovely. He's the host of Med Circle, the channel is called.
Feel good, pay attention to those signals, seek out help, communicate some. And if when you communicate with a partner, for example, you're getting very strange pushback or you're getting a lot of projection or they're blaming you.
Yeah. It's already hard to go to work every day.
Yeah.
But you mentioned in an earlier series that anywhere between about 4 or 5% to 21% of major corporations have a CEO.
Yeah. I mean, those are the
who's a
statistics that have been
psychopath,
floated
that's
out
the
there. Yeah.
statistics,
Mhm. Yeah.
So what is someone to do?
I mean, I think that it really comes down to how close you are to that psychopathic leader. That psychopathic leader may be running the whole show. Now, that's not going to make it easy because the culture sort of trickles from the top down, right? Yeah. So a really psychopathic boss can make for a really toxic culture where there's lots of backstabbing and subterfuge and lying and deceit and people throwing each other under the bus. And so it can be a really toxic workplace when it's somebody at the top. You may not have day-to-day contact with the person at the top of the ship, but you may have, contact with people in the middle who are still impacted by that kind of company culture. In terms of what you are to do, in the long term, it's not something you can do much about. I mean, certainly we've seen in the last few years more and more reports of the real dangers of abusive workplaces and what people have endured in those settings. And honestly, how many people said, when I even did say something, I wasn't believed, or I was told by people, don't say anything because that person's protected because they're making too much money for this company.
Right.
There's a reality there. You're in this sort of David and Goliath battle, you're not going to win. You're really not. And I wish I could sit here and say, no, really. And you can go to HR and you can get an attorney and it's all going to be a happy ending. It may very well not be. And by the time this whole story plays out, you may be so shredded psychologically that the battle may not be worth it. So it's really about choosing your battles and being very realistic about how it's all going to turn out. But all of that said, when you are in these workplaces where maybe somebody you report to directly is a psychopath, the key, again, it's something I've talked about in other Med Circle videos, is document. Because as I said, if you do decide to go down the path of talking to HR, they're only going to be able to work with documentation. A lot of people don't like to hear this, but it's a realistic piece of feedback, is that sometimes you simply can't win in those workplaces. Either you be willing to take on the litigation, and really, I tip my hat to your courage, and also I'm rooting for you to succeed at it. Some people don't have the resources, the patience, the time. They may not be, in some industries, it would just sort of end up, if it doesn't go the way you hope, you may never be able to work in that industry again. So it can be a really, really painful sort of a decision to pursue it. Sometimes the easiest thing is to find a new position. But for some people, that's hard, because that psychopathic supervisor or boss may not give them a good recommendation to go off into the sunset with. So you really may end up being hurt by this time spent with this psychopathic boss. So, it can be quite bleak depending on the situation.
What does
Both
a
bleak.
psychopathic boss look like?
They're very toxic. They tend to lie.
I thought you were going to say they're very tall.
Yeah, no, well, they could be.
Because you said
no,
toxic.
No, in
like,
fact,
they're
if anything,
very
I could be they were
tall.
quite short too. But they're very toxic. They're very, they tend to lie. They tend to manipulate. They tend to play people against each other. They thrive under division. They like it when there's lots of infighting because it tends to benefit them. They can be quite abusive. Yelling, screaming, hostility, yelling things that you would think would get them into legal or at least, HR trouble, but it doesn't. They tend to take credit for stuff that they're not responsible for. They steal other people's ideas. They have inhumane demands on their workers. They show absolutely no empathy to them. They're punitive. They hire fire with almost frivolously. They abuse
Maybe
their
he's
underlings.
bi.
They may be inappropriate with the people they work with sexually or otherwise. So it's a bad scene. It's a bad scene.
He talked about the relationship that he was in for 6 years, and it was with a man. So, thoughts and prayers, Brooklyn. Sorry. You never know. Maybe he's just maybe that relationship turned him off men forever. Maybe he's going to come to the feminine side.
And there's no way as an employee to manage them.
First of all, they have power over you in the system.
Right.
Now, like I said, in the best telling of the story, you save all your information, you have the smoking gun, you show up at HR, that there's somebody above this person in the pecking order, and they say, we don't care how much profit they make for us, we run a clean workplace, we're going to get rid of them, and we're going to give you a promotion. I wish that's how the story goes. It so often isn't, and many people will report the processes that they were made to go through to turn, to sort of drop a dime, if you will, or really, come clean to how horrible a
Pause. They've gone when the wide shot with them both on camera. They're both they're mirroring each other with their body language. Fascinating. I wonder if because Kyle folded his arms first, and he asked the question and folded his arms, and his legs are crossed, and then Dr. Ramani within a couple of seconds did the same thing, and they're just both holding that position. Fascinating.
Psychopathic supervisor or boss was, it's re-traumatizing. And this isn't even worth it anymore. And so it can break a person. And it's your work, it's your livelihood.
And because a
she
psychopathic
unfolds
boss
them
is
now.
usually very good at their job
They
in
tend to
terms
be,
of making
yeah.
money or in terms of being successful.
Whatever the outcome is. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like.
Right. I forgot about that. So, of course, the company is going to
They don't want it to
reward
be
that.
true. They don't
Yeah.
want it to be true, right? Because this person is really willing to do sometimes the
she's
dark
still
and
got her arms
dastardly
crossed.
things you need to do to succeed in certain sectors. And
Mhm.
so it's and they'll try to argue listen, my management techniques are being misinterpreted. One person's intimidation is another person's sort of, hard driving kind of supervisor.
Mhm. If somebody decides that they don't want to pursue action with HR and they don't want to leave their job, what advice do you give them?
Number one, you've got to take care of you. It can be, you'll be horribly depressed on Sunday nights when you face another day at that workplace. It is important that you seek out therapy. Therapy is a confidential space. Keep that in mind. I do let people know, though, if you are going to pursue civil litigation, they will try to get your therapist's records. So just, be open with your therapist that this is a possibility too. I'm just preparing people for the worst case scenarios, and really psychopathic bosses in workplaces, they're going to go in and try to do a smear campaign on you. So you have
They're
to be
fun.
prepared for all those things, but
I
get
love
the help
them.
you need. Build friendships in the workplace. I was reading a very interesting study recently, and they were talking about how when you have a toxic or psychopathic boss, their underlings may actually unite against their single enemy, if you will, common enemy. And sometimes they end up either going off and starting their own startups or creating creative problem solving solutions, like creating their own community independent of the psychopathic boss. They unite and provide each other support.
And then, of course, the psychopath boss goes, well, yeah, because I'm their boss.
I'm a visionary
do this.
leader.
Yeah,
Or he may get
leader.
really paranoid, or she may get really paranoid.
Yeah.
Why is everyone uniting against me? But either way, you might be able to find support in other rank and file people you work with. And you may not even be rank and file. I've worked with people who are at an executive level, and it's the person at the next executive level that's causing them misery.
Right.
So it's not, even, it could be at the top of the top. It could be down lower. It doesn't matter. It's just that person has power over you. But it's to get the support you need, take care of you, and then slowly start working on that exit strategy.
Yeah.
These kinds of experiences are what have led some people to actually pursue new career paths,
Mhm.
go back to school, do things that they never thought of, like move to another country. Like some people just view it as the wake-up call it is. And for some people, it's utter devastation. They may have worked for decades to establish themselves in a career to simply watch it get stolen from them by one boss.
Well, if it's not your boss, it could be your coworker.
Yeah.
What advice do you have when dealing with a coworker, which is a different dynamic?
It's the same. With a coworker, it's actually in some ways it can be strangely a little more problematic because you're almost a little less protected. At least when it's from the top down, you can show more negative effects on your job. Like if you get a demotion or something, you can probably plead your case better. But when it's a coworker, they may be impeding your progress in your career again by stealing your ideas, by creating alliances with coworkers and turning them against you, by spreading lies about you in the workplace. It's really easy to try to get in the gutter around this stuff. For example, to complain on in social media, I have a psychopathic boss, I have a psychopathic coworker. Never go there. That kind of stuff is a big no-no where HR is concerned. And then they'll have grounds to dismiss you.
Right, you're just hurting yourself.
Some people are just so desperate in these situations.
Equally, one needs to be very careful in the YouTube world for making those kind of assertions because people don't want to see it and it can be very detrimental.
They want to put the cry for help out there to their community. Social media is not private, it's public. It's a public space. So you have to be very judicious about how you try to get that support from other people. Social media is not the way. Talk to friends, to talk to a therapist, document. Make sure you have everything covered, all your I's dotted, all your T's crossed. A psychopathic coworker could be finding your vulnerability, your chink in the armor, and use that against you. So you need to make sure that you're as sewn up as possible.
I understand that. Excellent advice. And thank you again for walking our viewers through how they can deal with people in their life who may have an antisocial personality disorder in all aspects. Subscribe below, and remember, this video just scratched the surface. For more in-depth videos on mental health topics, go to medcircle.com and join for free.
Thanks, Kyle. We did it, chat. How about that? Pretty cool, huh? I really liked that video. I hope you all enjoyed it too. So part 1, if you missed it, is in the Psychology Corner playlist. And I don't think I have, but I will. I promise I will put the link to that video in the description box of both. So if you'd like to watch it minus my riveting commentary, you can. Now, tomorrow night, I'm planning, I haven't decided totally, but I've got a few shortlisted Psychology Corner things to cover. Bit more, bit less, very much less psychopathy, narcissism based, a bit more influence, still spotting signs and stuff. But anyway, we'll see. It's not locked down yet. Not locked in. I was gonna say, don't forget there's new merch dropping all the time. Go and check it out. Go and check the merch store out. Cool seasonal designs, cute, fun, camp spooky stuff for Halloween, available until the end of the month. We have pajamas, we have new logos, we have thicker weight hoodies, we have throw blankets, beach towels, swimwear, thongs, flip-flops, not thongs, flip-flops. What else? New caps, more designs in the wide leg pants, a flared tight, like a tight but with a flare on the bottom. New stuff dropping all the time. So get your merch right now. And if you would like a 10% discount, just use the discount code SPOOKY, all caps, because we love caps, all caps, SPOOKY, and that will get you 10% off. Donna Adelson pre-sentencing live. When's that sentencing? Oh yeah, that's coming up, isn't it? Is that tomorrow? Whoa, leave it with me, Brooklyn. I'd forgotten about that. It's not in my calendar of events because my brain. I've had a lot going on. But yeah, good idea. We should do a Donna Adelson thing because there'll be stuff. Monday, 3 p.m. I'm back to work. We might cover it next weekend, I guess, as a recap for the playlist and the community. Yeah, colors. Go and have a look. There's some really cool things. But yeah, thank you, Brooklyn, for reminding me. I'll make sure we do that next weekend. I guess probably Friday night. My tummy is grumbling so loud here. I'm surprised you can't hear it. Maybe you can. Very hungry. Thank you, my beautiful mods. Thank you, Ms. What the Fuck, as always. Thank you, Shorties. I love you very much. I'll see you tomorrow night. 5 Eastern, you know me, clock drifts. Be ready for 5-ish for the second part of day 6 of the Jesse Kuchevsky trial, the remainder of the day, and then something later on for Psychology Corner. We'll do that. Be kind to each other. Always be kind to each other. Acceptance is key. Once you process through the things, and you can't run from things forever, emotionally, mentally, take the time to work through the whys, the hows, the what's happened, and then come to an acceptance point. Simi says, I heard it. I thought it was Buster. No, that's definitely my tummy. I'm so hungry. Good night, friends. Good night, Ms. What the Fuck. Good night, Colors Flight. Good night, everybody. I love you all. I'll see you. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening. I'll see you all tomorrow night. Chat is bae. You are all bae. I love you all very much. Mwah.
I love you all so very much. We had a blast just chatting and stuff. Things may have gone bit off the rails. Professional when all else fails. 'Cause chat is bae, so much to say. Emotes and all the caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. We're skating through all the tough things, learning about this and that, defense motions, prosecution, and narcissistic twats. 'Cause chat is bae, so much to say. Emotes and all the all caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. Community, just you and me. Occasionally, Buster and Poppy. It's the whole thing. Miss Shorty swing. Together we make each other happy. 'Cause chat is bae.